close my eyes. Time
romantic dinner.
Big updates to map consistency, an expansion of the recall system, and the results of those aim punch tests. All this and more as we dive into the update 35.1 patch report. First up, as we talked about in the 2025 roadmap, we're starting our big moves towards standardizing key gameplay elements of the Battlegrounds experience. This will be a phased approach over the next several updates and will begin with items. You'll see things like the zipline gun, emergency cover flare, and stun gun appearing across all battlegrounds, while things like the thermal scope and blue chip transmitter are being removed everywhere. Take a look at the roadmap for all of our upcoming plans, or the patch notes to see the specifics of this first set of changes. Another way we're unifying the experience is by expanding the recall system to all maps, which means it's now available on Karakin and Paramo. Each map will have its own specifics for the system, so check out the patch notes for details. We're looking forward to seeing how these changes shift strategy on these maps. Next, thanks to your great testing and feedback, we're ready to implement the new aim punch system to live. We're going live with the settings from our last gunplay labs, and are looking forward to hearing your feedback on the system in the live environment. Last but not least, we're making audio adjustments based on your feedback, such as your shooting, driving, and the mortar explosions. Let us know how it sounds. There's also a new contender system in the workshop, a new survivor pass, more improvements to custom match, a new rank season, and more. So check out the patch notes for full details. Update 35.1 is here, so hit up a blue chip tower, call in some friends, and give your enemies a personalized lesson on how aim punch works. We'll see you on the battlegrounds.
Welcome to the PUBG Players Tour. This year, we're introducing structured competitive play in third-person perspective mode for players of all ranks, levels, and ability. Here's how it works in EMEA and Americas. PUBG Players Tour competition is held in 2-week phases. Each week, you and your squad can compete in player scrims. Think of these as a great alternative to ranked play. Each day of scrims will feature a variety of maps, with defined team and lobby sizes to ensure a balanced best-of-3 rounds. Teams will earn points based on their performance, and daily leaderboards will track their progress. When the scrims are over, the top teams will qualify for the PUBG Players Tour Cups, where they will be joined by up to 10 invited teams, featuring some of the best players in the region. Players Cup leaderboards will track team performances across 2 days of play, with the top 8 squads progressing to the final round of competition. Players Masters are the pinnacle of the PUBG Players Tournament. 8 teams from each of the 2 cups will engage in fierce competition for a huge prize pool in each region across the PUBG Players Tour season. And for times when a Players Masters isn't scheduled, you can still get your PUBG Players Tour fix with Super Cups. These work just like Masters events, where again, 16 teams, 8 from each of the 2 previous Players Cups, compete for a share of the total cash prize pool. Welcome to the PUBG Players Tour. You know the game. Be a player.
To day number 2 of the PUBG Players Cup. My name is Cameron Davis, and I am joined once again by Chunks. We already had 4 games yesterday of really exciting action here. We got 4 more to see who will be the first 8 teams that qualify to the PUBG Players Super Cup later on this month, next month, in a couple of weeks' time. Chunks, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good. I'm excited. I mean, last night was wacky when we saw the
weird circles on every single map. We didn't have a single standard one. So I think my big question going in tonight is the kind of pattern going to continue, or are we going to go a bit more standard and give teams the opportunity to have maybe more familiar games? Because there are a lot of top squads that weren't able to perform at the level we expected yesterday. But in an 8-game series, as we've said so many times over the previous couple of weeks, it only takes 1 or 2 good matches. So let's hope they can turn it around tonight.
Exactly. And we'll be showing you the format of this weekend as well as the current leaderboard throughout the pre-show now. We can just do the format, right? So we had scrims to get to this point. That's how the teams qualified. The scrims are open, and so we'll be giving you more information on how you can join later on, which you're still able to. But we're at the Players Cup right now. It's a best of 8 to qualify the first round for either Masters. This time it's going to be the first Super Cup. Top 8 there, and then we're going to do this once again for week number 2 starting next week. And then that will be the second best of 8 series, the second 8 teams that qualify to the Super Cup. Oftentimes you'll see some of the players that play in the first cup continue to play in the second. There are still cash prizes. You're allowed to play even if you've already qualified, but it's really good for practice, really good just to continue to explore this whole format. But now, Chunks, let's look at the whole leaderboard. Break it down for me. What sort of catches your eye with what the teams are looking at today?
I think for me, the biggest eye catcher right now has to be Typhon Gaming. Obviously, they had an amazing performance in the first set of Super Cups, in the first set of Player Cups, really strong in the Masters, but so far just haven't been able to deliver. As we saw in the first set of Players Cups, though, it only takes that second day. A couple of teams could start bottling it now, especially when you look at just how close that leaderboard is. One win is going to put anybody all the way down to probably 12th place up to the top 8 and into that qualification spot. Obviously, Team Mirror, they've come out, they've really surprised. It's a fresh set of players in terms of the Players Cup, and it's good to see them coming out strong yesterday. 2 chicken dinners and a lot of kills to go with each of them.
Yeah, the problem is, though, I'm looking at the placement points for a lot of these different teams. Like Team Mirror, they had the 2 chicken dinners, but only 5 placements between the other 2 games. And then Al-Qudsiya, they have 15 points, 1 chicken dinner, so that's 5 placement points throughout the other 3. I'm used to framing this in the best of 6 series that we've been running in PUBG Esports for the longest time. So I'm trying to make sure that I'm not getting a bit too far ahead of myself as far as like my internal metrics calculations go. We're still technically within like the first day of that. But I would like to see teams, especially the ones at the top, get a little better in terms of that consistency of grabbing like 2 or 3 placement points average per game per match, and chicken dinners definitely help with that, but you can't always necessarily rely on them.
Absolutely not. And you mentioned about improvement. If you guys want to improve and you want to get involved in competitive play, you can join into the Players Scrims throughout this week and then potentially be here playing next weekend. Just do ! Register in chat. The only condition is you have to be 16 years of age or older. Anyone can take part. It is free to enter, and you could potentially be playing not only in the Players Cup, in the Super Cup, in the Masters, and potentially that cross-regional event coming at the end of the year.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of fun times ahead. It's an entire year of this PUBG Players Tour. Really new ground that we're exploring. I don't want to keep harping on the fact that it's third person compared to first person, but that really is what the big difference is here that we're looking at, right? Whether it's you as a player that is interested in playing in third person, weren't really interested in competing in first, or just as a fan of PUBG as a whole, viewer, player, you want to explore everything. This has been a really, really good time. We've seen some great adjustments, developments, not only from the previous Players Cups into the previous Masters, and then of course yesterday, and I imagine further into today. But Chunks, let's get this one started. It is going back to Miramar, really solid playing path, virtually right down the center. Everyone should be happy, but the big question I'm gonna ask you is, do we think Luminosity and 55 will continue to contest Power Grid?
Yes. It's a simple answer in my mind. It has to be yes, because honestly, they've just, since the first Players Cup, they've just been hot dropping each other constantly. And every single time, without fail, 1 or 2 players go down. I do really like what LG did yesterday in terms of being able to kind of fake that rotate away and then come back to get a couple of exit kills. I would be surprised if they're able to pull the same off today, though. I think 55 have probably wisened up to that one, but you never know. And I gotta say, already, the drops are a little bit different to normal. LG usually send all 4 players down to the south. It looks like this time they've tried to kind of trap 55 in. It's going to be difficult to take these engagements, but, you know, they could catch some angles where 55 think they're safe and it turns out they're not.
Well, the problem is, and 55 should be aware of this, they have the ability to rush down the individual players, especially, who is that? I think that's a bit too, the font's
I think it's
too small
Bizzler
for me, but that Bizzler, yeah, on the south side, southeast corner, yeah, Bizzler indeed was under serious threat of getting rushed down, but you can see he's instantly pulling back, grabbing a 2x on a Mini 14. That's a really strong pickup right off the bat. Voxic finds a knock as well. So any threat, any fear of isolation rushdowns have been completely snuffed out. Luminosity should be able to take this hot drop pretty quickly from here on out.
You certainly got to think so, but Isla now in the open. Mixel could potentially find a bit of an off angle. He does have support as well, so they can play for trades. We always talk about taking these fights as teams. You don't want to get isolated in a 1 versus 1 position. LG are there. They're a little bit further back. Voxis has exposed himself now, so 55 are going to have a good read on this. It's pretty much a waiting game now for LG and how they choose to approach this. They flushed out one, but now it's time to close in, getting ready to swing round. Mixtel has not given that position away, and I don't think LG have the read on what position these 55 players are actually holding.
No, but Luminosity, we saw the circle, it was all the way towards the east. They want to clean this up pretty quickly, and if that means throwing bodies and just overwhelming, that's the way to do it. But Mixel does strike, doesn't hit any of those shots. Voxic with a little bit of a fake out, checking the opposite corner, and so that's a bit more information for Luminosity to play around.
Flashbang coming out. This could be the cue for the entry from LG. Voxic swings around the side, pre-fires the angle, doesn't land it, but he was in the right place. 55 Esports going down, and that's the first time that we, I think, have seen a squad survive without losing the player. Granted, Snake has got knocked, but he's going to be resable, and they're in a pretty good position in terms of getting into the zone right now. They do need to be careful of Typhon over on their east, but in the grand scheme of things, they should have a relatively straightforward game compared to what they're used to dealing with on Miramar.
Yeah, heavy compared to what they're used to dealing with. As we watch Duel and Toyo fight over this position, I don't think Duel were aware that there's a couple of players hanging up in the barn. Capitan could deal a massive blow to Duel if they're not properly checking this. Other players of Toyo are circling the area. I think I also saw another player buzz by in their vehicle. I think, well, IQ's looking up that direction. Whether it's just doing their due diligence or maybe even hearing something, Duel seem to at least have an idea that something is going on here, that things are not exactly what they seem.
Duel, they know that something's off, but Toyo are being very cautious about how they take this fight. Now, Kudzia did the same, but now that potentially Dangerous are trapped between all four of their players, they are going to unload every round they can. Unfortunately, though, not any connecting. D is going to close the distance, looking to get over that ridge, potentially find something. But so far, the only thing that's taken damage is the vehicle, and it is starting to smoke. You got to think not long till it blows up. It's already on fire. They've now landed a couple of shots. The vehicle's going to flip. Doesn't quite connect, but D certainly does. Gabriel tries to trade. D needs to get down behind that ridge quickly.
Teammates of Potentially Dangerous have arrived just in time. Teammates of Glock. I think there might be an opportunity to put that player in a vehicle and get out of there. Alcudzia, their positions aren't particularly close, but they are continuing to take this fight. Cowboy bumping off to the side, waiting for the best opportunity to get the spray down to Slabby. Takes him very, very low, pops the tire to allow the vehicle to spin on out, and there should be a second knock going the way of Alcudzia. There it is.
I like what Slavy tried to do there, hopping into the back seat, realizing he had a little bit more cover, and it did cause problems for Cowboy landing those shots, but unfortunately as soon as he hopped out, they were already watching this position. A very early game fight, but it's working out in favor of Alcudzia as they now try and finish off the final Potentially Dangerous players. Relo's not peeking up just yet. He's trying to get a read. I think that Potentially Dangerous should be able to get away from this one, but they do need to be careful of that supporting player further back. Only a 2x from Relo. It's not really the kind of fight you want to be taking.
Yeah, setting some shots, trying to get some information. Glock was revived and extracted, but unfortunately, Potentially Dangerous did still lose Slabby in that fight. Going back to Duel. IQ with a great swing, does get dropped in a trade, but Emmy with a grenade in hand makes it a 1-for-1. So a bit unfortunate of how things have currently fallen for Toyo, but Capitan, I think his position is recognized. He's the one that got the knock onto the member of Duel. Grenade out. The rest of Taego members are also pushing in.
It's a really nice flash there. If only the other players at Toyo were a little bit closer to be able to actually engage onto it. But Pippa is already in a nice angle. Benya's going to have to try and move up this hillside to try and get something here. He can't overexpose himself, closing in. K-Mine finds the knock onto Capitan. So there's only going to be 2 players left up from Toyo. K-Mine pops the first aid just for a little bit of respite. But it's Wooly who ends up getting caught out by Pippa on the roof.
Spectro trying to find an angle, seeing if Pippa reveals himself to him, but instead, Spectro is now the one that got spotted. Once again, only a 2x on the range weaponry, but this particular engagement range still could be quite impactful. K-Mine's pushing in, looking to get the revive onto Wooly. Should be able to follow that one through, and Benya's going to be trading that revive for one of his own.
Pippa's still not peeking, being cautious about it. Mira, though, they've got to be careful. Had the rock for cover, almost landed a couple of shots, but it's not to be as Fim just about get over that ridge line, but a headshot landing from afar. Kevin's going to have to move back, flips the vehicle at the worst possible time, should just be able to get behind the ridge for cover, but back in the Toyo fight, it looks like Capitan's gone down. Wooly going to try and find an angle onto Benya, but it's K-Mind who's had it called out to him, tries to hit the pre-fire, not connecting. Benya moves back for safety. Wooly spins around, Spectro takes down Pippa, and that's the end of Toyo early on. 4 kills on the board for Duel, hitting the form that we've maybe hoped from them now.
Really good fight for them to come. Whoa, what was that? All right, never mind. That was all a dream. We did not see anything. Cuz now good damage onto Mira. There was a knock going against Mira at the moment. And a couple of members are surviving in the smoke as while Finalitza Mesmo are still with 4 up. Have a little bit of a crossfire setup, but this fight is not in the zone. I think Finalitza might be assuming that this fight could be finished faster than I don't think it's going to be finished that fast, but Finalitza are committing to it regardless. They need to get into the zone, though. They can't commit to this fight for all too long.
No, and I can't help but think of the fact that Pure RNG are also doing kind of a split rotate. Lobes is getting up on this hillside. He might be able to spot something out if he decides to scout, but it looks like instead they are just going to focus on getting into the circle, which isn't a bad idea at this point. We've got about a minute until Phase 1 fully closes in. Thankfully for both these teams, who when they do finally make that rotate, they should be relatively clear in terms of not many squads holding them out, but it all depends, again, on Pure RNG's rotate. And look at this, Jam has actually heard these shots, and he's driving the car over in this direction. Could potentially be looking for a third party.
Jammer packs are keeping at least Kawazin healthy enough for now. Shots through the door, opening it up. But the clock is ticking, not just because of the blue, not just because of the zone, but also, as you mentioned, Pure RNG! The spray advantage! Unhappy should have had that one, but wasn't able to finalize it. Kawazin with a great turnaround. Phase 2 did clock in. We'll see where that ends up going when we see the mini-map, or sorry, the main map as a whole. But Team Mira, Pure RNG, that's not their focus right now. They just got to get out of this position without going down.
Your RNG, they're definitely taking the aggression approach, which is something that I love to see from a squad like this. A team of absolute fraggers, as Valiate preps a frag grenade, throws it through the doorway, hoping to bounce it off. It does connect with a little bit of damage. He hears the footsteps, peeks round just at the right time for that Mira player to be able to get away. LFP throws out the flashbang. Pre-fire comes through, but Valiant's now giving away his position, and he's going to be knocked because of it. Jam also to fall, but Lobes trades out one of them. Pure RNG, they need to get these 2 players back up, and they are making quick work of that. Penta throws down the smoke. They should be able to get the revive, and I know we haven't focused on the map yet, but it has pretty much shifted to the west, so there isn't a huge distance that RNG need to get to here. It's Mira and Fora that both need to pay attention and make a move.
It's a bit of a strange commitment by Pure RNG, as we are watching some other teams engage each other in picture-in-picture. Typhon, as Chunks mentioned at the top of the show, we're waiting to see them return to the form that we saw from just a few weekends ago, or rather, I think it was actually just last weekend. But I can't pull my attention away from that fight out in the blue. Such a strange commitment, not just by the two initial teams, but also pure RNG. I imagine at the moment, pure RNG are going to be looking to camp that rotation and try and catch what they imagine are likely going to be very easy kills. But the real question is, how many players are going to be alive to go into their field division to begin with?
I mean, we know RNG, they don't mind being out in the blue, specifically Valiate, but the rest of the squad have had a similar form in our games yesterday. They weren't afraid to spend a lot of time in the blue. It's just about balancing the risk and reward. Fana able to find a knock as Fim now in a lot of trouble. I don't think they're going to be looking in an ideal position to actually get this revive without committing a player. Ooh. And I would expect Mirror, they're just going to wait until those players rotate out of the compound now. They aren't under a huge amount of pressure. Sure, they want to make it into zone. But again, they're all right on meds. They should be able to survive. The big question is, are they going to take too much damage? That is when the zone really becomes a problem. As wow, a really nice shot from Dudu.
Ooh, great damage. Phantom might go down to the blue. Yeah, is actually prepping for it. Considered even self-smoking, but these revives should still be possible by Mira, but the blue damage is really going to start to add up. Not just that, but the damage to their utility, the damage to the heals available. Mira shouldn't be too concerned, though, because remember, they're in first place on the overall leaderboard halfway through this event, and it's not even about winning this weekend. It's just about being top 8. So the stakes aren't quite that high for them. The stakes for Finalitza Mesmo, though, that is a totally different story. Great damage, double knock coming out from Kawazine. And they are making sure Finalitza pay for sticking around this long.
Is there even a winner at this point, though? I mean, Mira, sure, they're going to have the points advantage, but can they really say they've won the fight when the med situation is starting to become dire? The next phase is about to pop, and as we know, the later we get into the game, the more damage that zone does. And if this goes hard off to the east, these teams are going to be in trouble, and, well, it goes about as far away as it could have done for them, and even the terrain that they will have once they finally do make it inside of the circle is going to be limited. Fana finishes off the job, though, but I mean, Mira, they are in trouble. They need to get some revives, get some meds, and get a move on.
Hey, worst case scenario, 4 kill points. That's an alright game. Whether you're on the top of the leaderboard or not. That's usually sort of the par that a lot of teams consider is their like baseline of what they try and hit every single game. Obviously, they then sort of execute on the opportunities and get as much as they can. But it's about having good, what's the word? I guess good
consistency.
Scope. No.
Per game, I guess.
No, yes, but I'm just saying, like, you're not going to have an opportunity to win every single game that you have, and so a lot of teams, they sort of make sure that the context of, well, we could only get 4 this time, but that's pretty good considering the options that we have. Granted, Mira were the ones that started that fight. They continue to stay around, so I'm not saying that is what their conclusion is going to be from that engagement, but regardless, 4 kill points, my point being, is not a bad game.
I can't help but notice as well that RNG is still holding the very west edge of the zone. It's almost like they're waiting. They know that these teams do have to make their way through, but nicely done from In Check to wait out on OMG. They get themselves a knock on the rotation, and they will be able to flush it. No, they don't flush it. It's actually Typhon who third-party onto it, but they get third-party themselves as Casito getting some shots. OMG now finally in position to try and take a fight, but it's third-party central right now. These hillsides are so open. The smoke, the only form of cover that In Check really have in their current position. Typhon are going to be forced to move away from this now.
Yeah, this is the north half of that El Azahar Western Trench. And so they're going to have to make a move, and it's not going to be the most straightforward route to get into a more central position in the zone. You can see some members of Typhon actually pulling away as well as In Check as we hop back into pure RNG as they collapse in on a compound that is held by Luminosity. Unsure if pure RNG are going to be aware of the tenants still hanging around, or tenant singular, it being Bizzler. But on the open, I think Lobes might have spotted them, but back into the north. Couple of knocks.
Making a third as Selfish. Nicely done to spot Psycho out in the open without giving away his position. until he was absolutely confident he could get the knock forever. Also, third partying into this one, so there isn't too much pressure from the zone just yet as Tony tries to land some long-range fire onto Selfish. He sticks the res. He's going to be outside of nade range, but in check, they're going to struggle to get this player back up unless they can take out Tony and quick. Best shots in time, not enough, unfortunately, gets behind the ridgeline. Is in check. They're starting to swarm. They need to finish off Tony, but they want to confirm this flush as well. Valiate with a perfectly timed nade onto Bizler.
Really good job getting the knock there. The rest of Luminosity are fighting their own fight in the center of the zone. I think Bizler might have tried to rotate out a little bit too late. Got caught solo isolated and wasn't able to take a second. Wasn't even able to get a knock of his own. Your RNG, the second kill, the books. Valiate is hiding in the blue for some reason. Is, I think, aware of the threat angles that Duel are pressuring from. Smoke goes out, perhaps to try and pick some gear up off of that fallen body of Bizler.
Zone really starting to do damage to these teams now. I think the teams that were kind of less concerned about it are starting to realize how much of a threat it could potentially be. Tony with a beautiful spray after throwing the nade should be able to pop the med and make a move in check. They are going to position up in almost a gatekeep spot, but they need to get over this ridgeline to be able to make sure he doesn't get round. A downed player is going to call him out and in check finish off the job. Typhon Gaming are now eliminated as Team Liquid are following a similar track right now. Halo goes down, so does Purdy Curdy, but Roth from Alcutia with a huge 2K, making the high ground work.
Shooting in tandem, Alcutia finding the kills, finding the damage. Roth is there to finish it off as Cowboy peeks back behind, is aware of Kawazin's relative position, at least rather their presence, coming in from this angle. Abusing as much of this high ground as possible. The rest of Alcudia are further towards the north, setting up in a position to shepherd the rest of that southern pair into the zone once the blue gets further closed. Duel do get eliminated. Actually, Pure RNG ended up taking that fight. Curious how that one happened. From the last time we saw them, Duel had the high ground, but there's still more action to be had here. Liquid are going down, potentially dangerous. They're not too healthy themselves. But a grenade by Gabriel is looking for Luke's, pushing through it. Might have spotted Gabby.
Frag. It's thrown, but it's too little, too late. That doesn't matter when you got shots like that, though. Gabriel finishing off Liquid, but still under pressure from Alcudia up on the high ground. He's got a very open run to try and make. Selfish has a little bit more cover than that, but not able to make it count for anything as Robert finishes off the job. Gabriel, I mean, he's got a bit of a ridge to work with, might just about be able to make it into the circle, but OMG, given their position, you maybe expect them to move into the same spot.
Cowboy drops down from the high ground, and you can see on the map now as we watch Phase 5 lock in, medium shift to the north. And that sort of reduces the control that Alcudia were hoping to have, but still a lot of space that they have their eyes on, hoping to find every single last straggler, which at the moment is only just one Kalbazine to the south, as we watch a lot of fighting happening on the west side. Luminosity, Sans Bizler, trying to find some more kills. They already have 6, so it's already a pretty successful run for them. Not yet in placement points. And Pure RNG, well, they're getting some more kills. We see 4 go down in the kill feed.
Down to only Lobes left up, though. It's going to make things difficult for them as Cowboy looking to get even more kill points here for Alcudia. That's 4 on the board. As you said, the benchmark many teams will aim for. That'll give them a little bit more comfort. They are definitely our kind of team to watch given the performances over the previous set of games yesterday. It's just about being able to convert those over to wins. They managed to get 1, came close a second time. They're very aggressive, and sometimes you have to think they let it get the best of them, going for kills when maybe they should just wait it out, but it seems like now they are balancing things perfectly. They've got D just pushing into the circle, getting the ridgeline as the rest of the squad hold back. I'd expect them to move in with the circle, but Gabriel, he's just moving in full force. That doesn't matter because Dai's watching it.
Man, great shots to get that knock, but yeah, Alcudia, all that space that they are able to gain so much control over is allowing them different avenues of access, not just to get into the zone, but also to have different sight lines on finding a couple of other straggling players. 7 teams left. We're in the placement points. 21 players alive. So quite a lot of healthy squads in the mix. Just a few solos to reduce the average player per squad. Cowboy with another. That's a stolen kill, I believe it was. And this is an AWM in the hands of Team Casitos. 3 kills for them so far. All 4 left standing. And OMG, they're just getting reduced to smithereens, really.
Die with a really nice nade, able to finish off the job. Furhopper goes down, and they are just working on building up the placement points as well as the kills. Now 7 on the board. They've spotted out Team Casito. I think that's 2 great weapons for them right now, so they are looking absolutely stacked. And they have a very good position considering the zone. They've got so much control and a ridgeline to work out of. Alcurcia are going to be very concerned about this threat, but they can't ignore the compound when the push comes in. Vox paying attention to some hard cover of his own, tries to land the nade after popping the first aid, gets caught with one in return, but it's Atlas that gets taken out by the Molotov.
A great spray on the exit. Making sure to deal the extra bits of damage. Make sure Atlas goes down to that fire. Infinite Void's the last one standing. LG should be able to get the revive onto their own fallen teammate. I believe that was... Wait a second. Okay, I saw a deployable cover flare in hand. I thought that was an attempt on getting a crush kill. Instead, it's just going to be more standard utility being thrown out to try and finish the fight. They're going for the res of their own. But Atlas gets stolen away by Lobes, the last player of pure RNG, finding the kills where they can.
Making the most out of it. Lobes has a bit of a struggle to get into the circle here. Alcurcia have gone from one of the weakest positions if they had to move over this ridgeline to now arguably one of the strongest. They still don't have that hard cover, but they're going to be happy with this ridge because ultimately the only team that can really push onto them from here is going to be LG, and they have good sight lines down onto this compound with Dai holding the high ground. They're going to hop in the vehicles to try and get a little bit of extra cover. Gat's watching behind. He knew that Dai was going to be on this, lands a shot, but it's not going to be anything significant, forcing Dai to reposition as Alcurcia all start to make a move onto the ridge.
This is a complicated area, I think, for Alcurcia to try and play around. They got some nice terrain cover, particularly from Forever's angle. But at the same time, it kind of feels like they're playing on perpetual low ground. Voxic with some good shots to take Infinite Void out. Lobes unable to steal that kill away. 6 kills for pure RNG. 3 placements as well. So a really, really good run, all things considered. Especially with
risk
that
now,
fight in
though.
the blue in the beginning.
The risk now, though, for Lobes is he's given his position away. Robert's going to be looking out for this one, but I think he's almost preoccupied with LG. He's going to hear those footsteps sooner or later as Lobes starts to close in. It's really going to be a question of who spots who first, and right now, I mean, Robert is looking the wrong way. Lobes with the zone on his back, getting ready to go for the peak, trying to make the most out of the third person, but he's looking the wrong way. Robert hears him, lands the headshot. That's RNG out in 5th, and Team Casito, 5 kills on the board, starting to shape up. Yet another team that performed under what we expected yesterday, starting to turn things around.
But this is a pretty populated endgame. 4v4v4 v3. It really is anyone's game to win at this point, even with Luminosity's lower player count. We still know the firepower on that squad is not something to stub your nose at. I am liking Alcurcia's position, though, especially with Cowboy hanging off on the side and Forever. Well, they have the hard cover. 0 kills for them so far. Let's see what they can do in this endgame position to try and maximize the points that they have available in front of them.
Forever, do you need to be cautious now with Alcurcia pushing down? It's all well and good having the hard cover, but this is one of those compounds like we saw in Erangel yesterday where you do not have the best lines of sight up the hillside, and it can be a potential threat to them. We'll see how the zone ends up moving. They are still going to be able to work out of it, but Alcurcia have to be the favourites in terms of positioning. I think the big question is going to be how LG move up this ridgeline. It looks like Dai is the only one down here. Sorry, no, Roth is playing a whole lot closer. So this could be the opening that Alcurcia needed to try and execute when LG push, but as of now, they are just getting peppered as soon as they peak.
Voxic was spotting some information out, didn't want to give their position away. But unfortunately, the rest of Luminosity, they are finding it hard to break into this zone. Really good hold by Alcudzia. Great grenade by D. Takes Snickers out. And D's going to continue to push forward. Getting the high ground angle over the third-person camera, over that vehicle, over the rock, over the smoke. Now is going to peek over and try and spot Gats, but takes a lot of damage in return. Gats down to 12 HP, but is at least able to confirm that extra 9th kill point.
It was a bold push from D, but it didn't work out. Voxic, however, will be third-partied, so LG down to just a solo. If only Alcudzia had waited a little bit longer before pushing, they could have finished off the squad, but they're going to finish off Bailey right there. Nicely done to land the headshots as in check now pushing up the ridgeline. They are completely open. Sorry, it's Forever that are pushing up the ridgeline now, completely open from behind. But as long as Alcudzia are laying the shots down onto Team Casito, they should be safe. As now, though, Team Casito, they've been able to get the meds, getting absolutely peppered, running down the hill. Gat's still trying to make something happen onto Roth as he peeks out, lands the double headshot, and Alcudzia, they're getting a little bit shaky. They've only got Cowboy and another player standing. They need to get the revive, but Gats, he just can't make his mind up which way he wants to push.
I don't think Gats wants to push. He's in the zone at the moment, and he has a little bit of safety from this position. Just staying mobile to not get caught out, especially by any stray grenades that could be heading back their direction. Roth looks to be getting revived, with Cowboy holding the high ground. Team Casito unable to push into Forever's compound, but Forever at the same time were unable to really push up onto the high ground. It's been a lot of damage across the different squads. No one's come out without a scratch.
Team Casito, I think they've realised they're going to have to make a move sooner or later. The zone does shift their way, so it's Alcudzia now, potentially looking to move on to Gats' position. Maybe in almost a 1-2 split, leave somebody behind and send 2 to try and finish off Gats, just so they have free reign to move how they wish. But I wouldn't envy any of these squads. Other than Forever right now, they're the only team that really have any kind of cover. Team Casito, they've got the ridgeline, but as soon as they peek over, Cowboy is there to land a bit of damage and force them back down. It's really a test of patience at this point, and who is going to be the last one to push? Gats is spotted, and he gets punished accordingly. Somehow still standing, though.
Somehow sending it all the way to Forever, hoping to find some point of cover. But the damage exchange from all of the different squads allowed Forever, Bandit Dorito pick up. I believe that was either the first or second kill for them. But hey, you gotta get the points where you can. And that was a 2-point kill, considering it eliminated Luminosity and gave them as well another placement. Roth with the knock on to Cruxy. Team Casito, they're struggling to really control this central position. It is mostly center, but again, Alcudzia, the high ground, is providing a lot of value.
And that death box has just gained a lot of value for Roth. He had no ammo, no meds, threw down the smoke and was blessed with a whole lot to work with. Just going to get more smokes ready to go as they realise just how open this position is. They are getting ready to move down, but Robert being very careful not to give any information away. Getting a read. He's going to call this out to his teammate when they do expose themselves. But now that the smoke is there, it's going to make that info a little bit harder to gather, using the smoke as much as they can. But the util situation is pretty dire on the part of Alcudzia right now.
They just got to do this the old-fashioned way. A flash comes out to allow the push. And the peek from the tree is going to net Robert a single knock.
That was the worst possible time to pull out a grenade right there for Roth, but Robert making the most out of it when he got the line of sight. Rello has ran back into that smoke as it starts to dissipate. They get ready to pop another one. He didn't spot the player coming over the hillside, so Rello's going to be able to get the knock as Team Casito fall to Pandorito. There's only going to be 2 players for each team left up, as Forever are going to attempt to heal and potentially get the revive. Cowboy playing the high ground, laying down the shots, but Rello throws the flashbang, getting ready to peek round the side. He does a lot of damage, converts converts it over into a knock, and now it is a 2 versus 1. But I don't think Alcudia have the info on exactly where this player is. They're going to use that util, make sure they can actually get down the ridge. But if they expose themselves yet again, we need to mention they have no ammo to work with. They need to land their shots. That's exactly what Cowboy does, and he picks up the win for Alcudia.
Not just using the high ground, also being able to utilize the smokes to cover their position while finding all the information. Alcudia don't let this one slip through their fingers. Again, 13 kill victory for them to open up the night. They failed to find the chicken dinner on yesterday's Miramar, but they find it this time around. Really exciting stuff. That early gaming play, utilizing the high ground, grabbing all of that control towards the south, made it a step-by-step process to go into the end game.
I gotta give LG credit for being able to come out on top of this fight. They approached it from a different methodology to what we've seen in the previous weeks, and it works out. But, I mean, we don't have another Miramar game if both teams are playing in the next Players Cup, or, you know, when it comes to the Super Cup. It's going to be interesting to see how that one unfolds again. But it was an interesting game, I have to say, Cammy. It almost felt like sustained low pressure throughout the entire match. And then when we got to that endgame, things just picked up really quickly.
What's interesting is that, as, you know, illustrated further by this Toyo duel fight, and then, of course, back out into this blue, the fight that took forever to finish up, that we're still seeing early game fighting be significantly more, not incentivized, but, or something's incentivizing these teams to continue doing that. There's just a lot more early game activity, and I have to imagine it's because fighting for a position in the center of the zone is not as valuable. And that just means that you're going to be fighting on the edge significantly more often. Exciting to see how this meta continues to develop, not just tonight, but more importantly, across the rest of this next leg of the PUBG Players Tour.
It's going to be an interesting one to watch, but all credit there has to go to Alcudia. They were all gas, no brakes. They put on so much pressure throughout the match, ending up with a huge number of kills, 13, to make it a 23-point victory. That is absolutely huge from them. Team Casito, though, that's a team we mentioned earlier on, needed to pick up some points, and, well, they finally started to, so good to see them on the leaderboard as well.
Luminosity 2 continuing to establish their position at the top, maintaining in a comfortable position in the top 8. And Team Mira, they were in first place. I think they're gonna... Oh, Alcudia might actually be overtaking them. We'll see when the overall leaderboard does show itself. But regardless, Team Mira still finding 4 points. They should feel comfortable. I'm really curious, though, about how we're going to be looking at that fight for those 7th and 8th place positions. Team Casito, they put themselves there on top of potentially dangerous. But can they hold on? We have 3 games left.
I mean, last time in the Players Cup, it came down to literally 2 points separating 4 teams from qualification and not qualifying. So it shows just how close things can be, especially if some of those squads that are further down, Jewel, RNG is springing to mind right here, that didn't do great yesterday and now starting to get kills on the board. They're getting ready to close up that distance, and we just can't take our attention off that kind of 6th to 10th place spot right now, because that's how close it was in the previous weeks, and I'm sure it's going to reign true tonight.
We got 3 games coming up, everyone. We're going to Taego, Rondo, and then Erangel once again, of course, to round things out. Before we continue the show, though, we're going to go to a quick break. So go replenish your refreshments, and we'll see you in a couple of minutes. Everyone, short break. Hope you're ready for the action to continue here as we go into Taego. Cameron Davis joined by Chunks. Once again, of course, you already know who we are. We do want to remind you as often as we can, though, that if you're interested in playing in these events, just hit that exclamation point, register, and see how you can get involved. Will be not just for this event, not just for this next week's upcoming scrim block, but also just this event going forward and beyond. We got so many more Masters, so many more Players Cups, so many more Super Cups to go throughout 2025. It is only early days here.
Yeah, plenty more to go. Plenty of opportunities to prove yourself. I think the big appeal is going to be for a lot of these players who have maybe played a lot of third person in the past, haven't really delved into the competitive scene because it is such kind of a different way of playing. It's a good opportunity to make your mark against these FPP noobs that are in the lobby, because ultimately most of these guys, they only play FPP, they don't really play TPP as much, so you might actually have your advantage here, and you could make the most out of it playing against some of the best, not only in Americas but also in the world. So definitely sign up for that. But it is time for Taego. Cammy, I have to say it right now though, it's going to be early game fights. It has been, and I'm sure Taego will continue to deliver.
Yeah, I don't think that's that much of a hot take. Interesting playing path. And surely that's not a hot drop happening at Shipyard. Why are two teams going over to Shipyard?
We saw it in the last Players Cup where kind of one
they're
solo
pulling
player
away.
forgot to, I remember in the last Players Cup, I think it was Alcudia maybe dropped there. It might have been a different team. And then I think one of the players had maybe taken a bit too long on their break and got kicked out of the plane and ended up solo dropping on Alcudia. And it was like the slowest early game fight until the rest of Alcudia managed to group up. But it looks like they have switched up the drop spot. And at least for now, I don't expect to see any hot drops. I'm sure as soon as that circle pops, though, we're going to see a couple of squads go dead center, and they are just going to cluster up on a compound together.
I have my eyes now on 55 and Pure RNG. They're going similar trajectory. I imagine Pure RNG are going to stay at Songam and 55 go all the way to school. But yeah, right now it's all just about waiting for phase number one. It's going to be a pretty southern circle, touching the eastern edge. Oh Hyung, somewhat most central position. Not exactly, but we'll take it for now. It's close enough. And so Liquid and InCheck, both teams with a need to gather further points to either get into the top 8 or put themselves in a much more comfortable spot. They're going to have the first point of access to a centralized position. But as we've seen before, that doesn't always mean that they have the time that they would want to gather up all the loot. So we'll see how much utility, how much gear they'll have to defend their position once the other teams start to move in on their own timings.
It'll be good for InCheck as well. It's a team that they've shown so many kind of positive signs, and they really want to cement their place in the top 8 right now rather than fighting around that middle of the pack for maybe they'll qualify, maybe they won't. So they're going to be in a really good position moving forward. I have to say, though, for teams like OMG, like Forever, that are all the way up on the north, this is going to be a very tricky rotate. I'm not going to say there will be a bridge camp, but I'm not going to rule it out because we saw it in the previous Player Cups where I think, again, I'm talking about Alcudia, they took out 2 teams on the same bridge camp in the space of 1 game. So there are more options to rotate here on Taego than you would say if you had a military circle down on Erangel, but you can never rule anything out. It's an unpredictable event at the best of times.
Yeah. Well, you also have to remember the bridges on Taego, despite there, to your point, being more of them to go from the northern island to the south, they're smaller bridges. They don't have the catwalks. They don't have the same approach options that the Erangel Sosnovka Island bridges do. So I think the threat is actually still pretty high. And for teams like Luminosity and Alcudia that are basically qualified at this point, I find it almost mathematically impossible for them to fall out of the top 8. For them, they can just play this, they can approach this however they want to, but teams like Duel, teams like Liquid, all these teams that we've been seeing on your screen for the past couple of moments, they don't have the same slack to play with.
I do have to say it's interesting to see Liquid going with the E-pickup instead of taking a vehicle. Potentially they want to go all the way down to the south because they know that there's not likely to be many teams down there, and they can have a bit more free reign to work with, but they do have to be careful because Mira are going with a very wide rotate and could end up in the same position right now. In terms of rotations, teams may be leaving it a little bit later than you'd expect in such a southern circle, given the playing path. You maybe expect those teams on the very north to already be prioritizing vehicles and making a move. But I gotta say, if we're talking about early rotations, Mirror are the ones to watch right now. There's a reason they were able to get so consistent yesterday. They focus on the placement and then they work on the kills, as opposed to other squads in this lobby who maybe have the opposite. They focus on the kills and then the placement comes alongside it. But in check, they're going to struggle to get placement if Team Liquid have their way.
Kurt, it was a one-player E-pickup for the Sky Cam, while the rest of Liquid rolled up in vehicles, and they were actually able, all 4 members, to get into the compound, but Andrew's gonna make them pay for it. Dick gets a knock on Luke. Kurt can't just barely get a trade knock in return. Spots out Selfish. Honestly, I think he's probably thinking of dropping down. Almost messed that one up, but still able to land the knock regardless.
It's the teammate up the hillside, though, that's able to finish off the job, and Czech are going to close it in. Not focusing the flush just yet. It could have been the perfect opportunity to, as Alo forced to heal up. He's going to flush out Kurt. Maybe going to go for the revive on his teammate, but it looks like Alo already has a nade in hand, getting ready to throw it out. Andrew trying to copy Kurt's strategy here, going up on the high ground, playing the roof, going to cause a problem. There's no chance that Liquid can really push across the road. Definitely not now that Alo's gone down. It's only going to be Sparking left up, with RNG and Mira sneaking up behind, potentially going to cause a problem in third party.
All down to Sparking. It looked like such a good approach at the start of things. But Andrew with a really solid defense, getting that first knock onto Luke and then not going down in return to Kurt, I think is what really led this fight to get won so strongly by InCheck. There are a couple of other teams messing around, Pure RNG, and then Mirror have also been driving around in the distance. So InCheck shouldn't be feeling too safe at the moment. A couple of E-pickup lines we can see on the minimap going in through the air. I wonder if anyone's going to try and contest this spot, follow up what Liquid tried to do. Ooh, great headshot. Vinny's going to make sure Pure RNG, despite their retreat, are still kind of feeling the pain.
Nicely done from InCheck to force RNG away from this. I think they've maybe got the read onto where Sparking is, but the nade doesn't connect quite as well as they would have hoped. This is one thing that I have noticed. Oh, not quite enough to do the job. This is one thing I have noticed. The players, a lot of them are struggling with the TPP nades at the moment. You saw him miss the first one, switched over to FPP, able to land it right away. It is one of those small things you have to adjust for when you're playing between the two game modes. Sparking, he's using that third person to the best of his advantage. Underarm flashbang to try and spot out a player. Not able to make much happen out of it, though. It's only Vinny that falls, and they're going to be able to get the revive. Liquid down in 16th place.
Well, with that push, they have given up some positions in this compound, but unfortunately for them, no one's been able to recognize that and sort of steal the bigger buildings from them. Luminosity Gaming in the middle of a fight with Forever rotating past them. This is on the northern edge of the zone. Bizzler has gone down, but I think Luminosity are not deterred. A great knock onto Nubski. I think Forever is going to have to give that player up, considering Voxic's push getting ever closer.
Snakers with the long-range shots, just trying to make something happen to prevent Forever from being able to get the revive. Putting in work onto Pandarito, trying to figure out how to take down Kevin, but he's got a little bit more cover than Liquid would have hoped for. Sorry, LG would have hoped for. Voxic spraying through the smoke, able to land a couple of shots. It almost looks like LG want to push on this, but they do need to be careful of Scooby over to the side now. I don't think that Gats has any idea about this. This could be an opportunity to peek up. At the very least, Forever are going to get some info called out to them now.
Yeah, fortunately for Luminosity, Scooby has been knocked and is bleeding out, so no big threat coming from there. But you're right about the information. Gats doesn't need to be too worried, though. And teammate, they both roll up. A great spray. Nubsky gets knocked once again. Bad Kevin's trying to retreat. Hopping in the vehicle in the smoke. Panda Dorito is already gone. Gonna try and salvage what they can, even if their one remaining teammate can't follow up. And that, well, but with Bad Kevin going down, it is going to be a solo venture from here on out.
Nicely done from LG, but they've committed to a fight, and they haven't had much opportunity to loot. They're going to need to work on that. Mixall, he's going to be happy. Already got a Groza and a Gilly to start out the game. They've spotted out the player in the glider from Taego, but not able to connect with anything onto it. Phase 1 slowly creeping its way through. About a minute left till it fully closes in, and Pandarito unfortunately falls to Typhon. Again, though, Cammy, we mentioned that this could happen. Everyone seems to be clustered up in one position. As finally, they make the most out of their position. Nicely done from Kevin's.
Really good knock. Make sure to confirm the kill as well. Solo player of FIM in this area. The rest of the team does look to be following on up, but Infinite Void finding an angle unexpected by Kuzno. Hopping through the vehicle. Really good play to avoid that LOS. Unhappy, got a little bit confused. Decides to hop back out of the vehicle, and Infinite Void rolling over that hill. Now into the threat range of 9. Should be able to follow up, but no, the drive-by damage was really close to getting the knock onto 9, 2 HP. This is a bit hectic of a fight, but it's Finalizzo Mesmo coming out pretty good here.
Need to get the heals onto 9, and the circle is shifted about as far away as it could have done up to the northwest. Taking out all the water, which is going to be a relief for a lot of the teams, and there's still plenty of playable area. The northwest, though, is completely open and out, Kudsia, with the splits that they've been making over the past few game days at this point since the start of the tour. They get really aggressive with those early game splits. Look at how far away Dai is up on the north. They are going to make the most out of this zone control. They do need to be careful with Toyo moving in, though.
Hopper ends up actually going down. Thought he dropped away from the vulnerable position. Does go down to Mira, who are getting a couple of knocks and kills on a few different squads around them. We're able to confirm one of those kills against a duel. But
oh no.
Oh no. Oh, this is getting a bit sloppy here. Mira are all sort of concentrated in this single position. They're trying to sort of make sure that they can deal damage to teams all around them, make sure that they can deter any potential crashes. But you can just kind of tell looking back in on them, despite the damage output looking pretty good, they're not really able to establish too much control. It's not a big concern right now. It's only phase 2. But still, something to keep your eye on going forward.
Definitely, as I think most teams are going to be pretty happy with their current position because of how teams are clustered up early on. They've not really had to move. Everyone had really a good read on how things worked out. So I think maybe things are going to slow down a little bit for the time being. A lot of kind of long-range DMR shots. The only team that I have to pay attention to is going to be Finalizma, who do have quite a distance to try and make it in, and OMG already have a good read on their position. There's a little bit of hard cover down the hill from OMG that they could try and make the most out of, but I think it's going to be a case of just wait until the final second before actually making a move for them.
Robert and the rest of Team Casito playing outside of the construction zone area. Potentially dangerous just down to the south with a high ground angle over them. And then back to Oh My God as they're sending shots over towards the approaching Finalizza team. Are they lacking vehicles? Quite a few of them are still on foot at the moment. Potentially just looking for angles, trying to find the information. Oh My God, sending shots their way though. He's just kind of going to give them signs that, you know what, let's just send ourselves right below them. Let's try and pit ourselves under their line of sight. Force them to come and take the fight to us. It's not going to be a great spot, but it's in the zone. And with 40 seconds left, them as well as Fora, they just need to get inside and then make the next move, get the next piece of information, make the next decision from there.
It's easier said than done when you rotate this far to the south. Potentially dangerous, have a really nice hold and a good split. The only concern for potentially dangerous if they do spot out this player and decide to take the fight is the fact that Team Casito are just up to their north, so they could very easily swarm in third party and end up pinching potentially dangerous between two squads. But we're only 10 seconds away from phase 3, figuring out where exactly that is going to pop to. And right now, teams are relatively settled. It is just a waiting game to see where they decide to move. And unfortunately for some, it's going to be a fairly open position, so I would expect a lot of these teams down on the southeast to start butting heads against each other. Toyo dead center. They are happy with this one.
Yeah. Last time we saw Taego, it was a similar situation with Luminosity at the top of a hill. They didn't find too much action in the early game because so much of the fighting was concentrated on the edge. No one wanted to go up the hill, and this is looking to be the same start to that. Now, southeast side, Luminosity, duel running into each other, Typhon with an angle, potentially dangerous, also packed in with the arrival of those two forward members, but for them, they're going to have to push through Team Casito or 55, so they might be looking to find those 2 kill points first, or at least have something to go into the zone with.
Finalisma make their move. It's potentially dangerous. Getting ready to strike. It's Atlas, though, who opens up the fight. Slabby going to be falling. I can't imagine he's going to be an easy res, but Gabriel's going to try and make the most out of a tricky situation. Lands a lot of damage on the player in the vehicles. Fuskatao also getting taken down with a little bit of damage. Not enough to convert to the knock, but the nade will certainly do the job. BZ nade onto the rock to try and confirm the flush. It isn't quite going to be enough, but they need to clean up this fight if they want to remain as a 4-man. And the way that Slabby is looking right now, it is not going to be an easy one.
Yeah.
Glock moves around to the side, tries to get an off angle. Nade comes out. More pressure being found on the no cap alongside a couple of bullets. Surely that nade finishes the job. And yes, it does. For Adora's down in 14th place.
Slabby does go down to the blue. So potentially dangerous. Playing as a 3 from here on out. Team Casito heard that fight. They actually rushed up to the hill to see if they could third party. Right now, they're still posted up to try and gatekeep the entrance from potentially dangerous, but as you can tell, they're backing away. They want to avoid the getting stuck into the blue themselves. Back towards the center, Duel tried to beeline it towards Toyo's position, but they're going to get cut off of the knees. Blue Zone Grenade goes out to try and confirm Woolly Spray coming out from Capitan. Angle isn't great, though. So it looks like the revive should be able to come into play.
Can't help but notice 55 down on the south. It looked like they were going to cause problems for OMG, but they have been able to get away safely. Spectro is able to finish off Snakers, making sure that he can't get over to safety. But now LG, they're wary of this, and so are Toyo as they hear the shots. Capitan's going to be looking down the hillside, looking to pop out some vehicle tires, potentially make that rotate a little bit more difficult for Duel as Mira on a rotate of their own. It looked like they wanted to take this compound. It's not going to be so easy as taking the southern side, but they do get the hard cover up on the north. Still one player inside from in check. He's not giving away any information as he hits the hip fire, takes down one, just about dodges a second, nearly gets another knock, but it's not going to be enough. As in check, they are just going to start bombing the hell out of this building now.
Really good hold. Massive damage coming out from Andrew. Did end up falling. Sorry, not Andrew. Aranzera. That was Andrew's old position with the liquid crash. What is going on, man? Banter doesn't find anything. Mira is able to reset. Getting the revive onto Fakesin. 4 versus 3, but with the surround coming in from Incheck, Mira still need to be aware, still need to be concerned with the different angles, especially for throwables, especially for grenades landing right on their feet.
On the other side of things, 55 Esports, they've crashed straight onto Alcuti, and they are getting punished for it as well. Rello and Roth just putting in work down there. But as LFP trying to gather a little bit of info onto Andrew, the flashbang lands through. He's going to boost up, realizes there's a bit of respite in this fight, but phase 4 is about to start moving, so both teams are going to have to get out of this compound sooner or later. 55 Esports do fall in the end. It's actually Team Casito that finish off the job, but Fanna, he's spotted out one, and he's just trying to land the nade onto the correct position now.
This position's no longer in the zone, and they're going to have to push into a pretty dangerous angle, whoever comes out on top here. Reset of the shield. Andrew's gone down to a great grenade by Fanna. And LFP is getting revived.
Check, they need to
right now.
They need to get a heal up quickly, but it's going to be so difficult. There's so much pressure being applied, especially with pure RNG also third partying onto this. They've got to switch their attention quickly, though, as OMG. They've made a push behind. Valiate watching the rock. He's called out these players to the team. It's actually a third party from Luminosity that might save the day here. Now's the opportunity for RNG to potentially strike, but Gats is looking to finish off the job with the nades. Not quite able to just yet.
Going to bombard their position. Luminosity looking to create some damage as much as they can with 2 players up. Blind Panzer goes out, doesn't find its mark. But following up with further utility, OMG are not feeling healthy, not feeling safe. 1604 is popping out to try and catch Cruxy's cross. And the other downed player is getting dragged away from Valley 8's threat zone. So OMG should be able to get back up to at least 3. Cruxy does go down to Bizzler. 4 kills to Luminosity. They're still holding strong here. Despite only being 2 up, they are not done with this game yet.
Things are scrappy for them, though. They are completely surrounded. Taego have heard the shots, and they're actually sending Benya over the hill to try and get an angle onto it. There's Cowboy in a little bit of trouble behind the vehicle, down to low HP now. It's only going to take one more bullet to finish off the job. And there it is. Benya peaked up. We saw the damage he was able to do as a solo yesterday, and he's continuing that trajectory as Capitan from a whole different angle, taking a whole different player down. No squad is safe from Taego right now. They are putting in work.
Another grenade. Luminosity do go down. It's actually a grenade by Benya that finds Bizzler, and as well as a spray from the Mini 14. So Luminosity are eliminated before placements, but they still got some kills. Kawazine Fanta, last 2 remaining for Mira, peeks up and over. The smoke sprays towards Typhon, but again, the kill feed, it is all Toyo. It's all Toyo that we're seeing being active from this position. In fact, Capitan has, look at the minimap, Capitan has left the rest of the squad trying to find an angle. This is a very aggressive, very risky move, but they know that they need points and kills. Well, that's the most direct way to get them.
They're looking like they want to group up again now. They've taken the solo fights. They've picked up the kill points. Now it's a case of making sure that you're not going to get wiped out as a solo. OMG, they get the knock, but also end up knocking their own teammate. Furhopper takes down Pains as Robert moves in. I think he's expecting a player to be in a bit more of an aggressive position rather than just sticking the res. I'm not sure whether they're aware that there was a team knock that came through. Furhopper is going to prep a nade. It looks like he threw it in the perfect position, but Robert moved away just in time, barely able to hold on here. But as Valiate third parties from on high, OMG are down just as a solo. They do end up falling, but Bran follows suit after Lobes with the DMR shots gets the knock. It's Die that flushes it out.
Fuel still alive, playing as 2. I think there are a lot of heavily wounded squads going into this, what's about to be a late game. Still not in placement points, though. 9 teams alive, and Valiant's looking for further action, more angles. Spots Cruxy out, another great spray from the same angle that helped eliminate OMG.
Valiate, he found one. And I think that Robert thought he was safe from the smoke. Unfortunately, not providing enough cover as RNG get their 3rd kill of the game, looking to convert it over to a 4th point. They can't fully commit onto this player down the hill because of Die. Just watching from behind, Alcurti is still 4 strong and still with a super aggressive split. They've got a quarter of the zone under their control right now.
It's been free for a while. Remember, there were a couple of shifts that went towards the west. That pushed so many of the other teams to fight on the south or the east side. It's all about whether Alcudzia can hold on to it or not. Cowboy finds the final kill on Team Casito. Pure RNG now, they're popping in, popping the smoke, perhaps trying to find some more loot.
Selfish? Sorry to interrupt you, but Selfish is still alive out in the blue here.
Wow.
I didn't even realize.
Wow.
He's copying the Valiate plays right now.
This could catch Team RNG off guard. Footsteps should be heard by the potentially dangerous push onto Pure RNG. Penta's going to peek into it. Bit of a spray comes out pre-fire. Doesn't find too much damage. He's got a couple of windows to play with, though, and the rest of Pure RNG are collapsing back to flush these 2 aggressors out. But yeah, Selfish, keep an eye on that player. Could completely spoil this for either of these squads.
Penta's doing what he can, trying to pre-fire while flashbanged. He knows there's going to be a player around here somewhere, but he just can't find the angle. Lobes, though, as Glock pushes out, is going to be able to spot it as he finds the second, finishes off potentially dangerous. Selfish, going to be pretty happy with the way this has turned out right now. Pure RNG, they think this compound's going to be clear. They're going to move their way back up the hill, and it's only a matter of time until they run into Alcurti, and Cowboy distracts them yet again.
Roth now finding some information onto the remaining members of Toyo. Another squad that's been knocked down to 2. Capitan, I think, was the player that got eliminated up towards the north. Benya, though, with the Groza in hand, is feeling very spicy. Unfortunately, though, spotted out by Kawazine. Forced back to hide behind the rock. Oh, and then spots Roth again. So a great spray that came out at that range with the red dot. Benya is feeling happy with the utilization of this weaponry. 6 kills turned to 7 overall, and we've hit placement points. Toyo are ready to put themselves in a much stronger position on the leaderboard here.
I've got to say, in terms of raw mechanical skill, Benya has impressed me the most out of any player this weekend. We saw what he was able to do in that clutch situation with only a couple of bullets yesterday, and he is continuing to just impress with the pure shots that he is able to land. Toyo are making the most out of it as they try and close the distance. Relo has called it out. The rest of Alcurtia need to regroup. They've held so much zone for so long, but now there's only a duo left up. They need to start playing for those trades a little bit better. It looks like, though, Cowboy, he's preoccupied looking down the hillside and gets punished by Jam because of it. Relo, as the solo, going to try and use the rock for a little bit of cover, but I think it's a question of when and not if Relo gets taken out now.
Just goes to show that even if you do have a huge section of the map, it's all about what the terrain gives you options for, and Kudsia just were unable to really leverage the spread of their players to break through either Toyo or Pure RNG. The latter doesn't surprise me. Pure RNG have been hanging out in this compound for a while. It's very difficult to force someone out of the hard cover like that, but another hard shift aggressively towards the west. I don't know who has an advantage here. It has to be Pure RNG, purely based on numbers. It's a bunch of duos and a solo outside of that one squad. But getting into the zone, having to fight through all the different angles of the remaining squads, like Pure RNG, it's not going to be that easy for them.
Vanna pushes down the hill, but it's Wooly who finishes off Team Mirror. I was going to say, I like Duel's position here. Even as a duo, they've got a bit of fortification. Right. They're inside of the circle. They just need to worry about Typhon. That could be made a little bit easier now with Penta pushing round the side and potentially going to be able to find an angle onto Karak, but Spectro goes down. Duel are going to be in a little bit of trouble. Wooly, the only player left up, and his position is noted by every team around them. Penta finishes off the job onto Tony, but it's going to be Relo that falls to the nade. Nicely done from Pure RNG, and they are making the numbers advantage work in their favor. Huge spray over to Benja, catching a little bit of damage to the head, but it's not going to be enough to convert into the knock.
Unfortunately for Alcadzia, Spectro did get stolen away by Karak, so that bleed out's not going to give a final point to Relo and the rest of the squad. Eyes on Lopes. Initial damage. That ridgeline, though, doesn't allow Toyo to follow up with anything more. Great spray, at least it looked like it started to be. For RNG, they were able to make it into the zone. All 4 left standing. 4v2v1v1. It's looking more and more confident of a finish for Pure RNG. Already 9 kills. They could maximize that kill count and end with a 13 kill chicken dinner. They'll be in a much better position, certainly in the top 8.
Now, again, things slow down. Typhon, with only 1 player left up, it's Karax that has to try and make a move into the zone. Pure RNG, they're not going to get over aggressive here. They're happy with their current position. Benja taking a lot of blue damage, but does have plenty of first aids to be able to work with. I think now Toyo, they're realizing they've not got great cover up ahead of them. They need to make themselves cover. And that vehicle might be the game changer if they can get it in without getting spotted out. Penta, though, he has a read on where Karak's going to be, and the nade is cooked perfectly. Down go Typhon. 4th place, very impressive for them. It's good to see them consistently start to pick up more points. They just need that one big game to turn things around now.
Lobes is still looking for it. Knows that Toyo are playing on the zenith of the high ground. But Phase 8 stays center. No one's inside. There's a toe of Pure RNG that's in the zone. But Wooly, out. Toyo, out. And for those 2 squads, those 3 players, It's about trying to confirm second place, not necessarily going for the win. You'll take the chance if you can find it, but against the overwhelming force of all 4 members of Pure RNG left standing, it's not going to be that easy to find that opportunity.
I can't tell right now whether Wooly is actually inside of zone in his current position. He's certainly close, but he is right on the edge. Double shield for extra protection. I think he realizes he's probably not going to get pushed. I don't think Taego want to expose themselves pushing down this ridge line. They're going to play a little bit split right now, probably group up together as that circle closes in. Speaking of closing in, it's Pure RNG. They are setting their sights, but they just haven't made up their mind who they want to target first. You've got to think that at this point, with their current position, they just want to get aggressive. They want to take a fight, but they don't want to take the risk of being third-partied. Loeb's trying his best to cover behind. It looks like the rest of the squad focus on to Taego.
Ooh.
Valiate up on the rock, trying to find an angle onto Pippa, but this nade could be dangerous here.
Looking good. It only deals 31 points to Valiate. Tries to peek on over and take Benya down, but Pippa's still throwing utility after utility after utility. He's able to make it to the rock. Valiant can't quite peek over because of the covering fire of Benya, and Pippa is blind, but swings out from the side. Able to get one, goes for the second, can't quite find the follow-up knock. But damage is looking good. Benya now pushing forward, and Wooly is also striking from the east.
Nice attempted spray there from Jam, but he's not able to connect with those last couple of bullets. Valiant goes down to the zone. It's not what we would have expected, but he will be falling because of it. Pure RNG, they still have a huge numbers advantage right now with 3 players left up. Benja just going to be playing behind that car, prone, using it for cover, but the BZ nade is close. I don't think that Pure RNG have any further util to work with. Jam is trying to find an angle, actually goes for the hip fire there. He does spot out the arm of Benja, lands a decent amount of damage, but just not able to convert it. Penta finishes the job onto Wooly, and now everybody's eyes are on Taego. Lobes does the job, and it's Pure RNG with a 13-kill win. And we were talking so much about teams that just needed that one big game. That's what RNG have been able to do.
Yeah, 13 kills, really good count. Should slingshot them into the top 8. Still probably on the lower half of that, and so the game is not yet done for them. This run is not yet done. They still need to make sure that they can end in that same position. But a really good job to finalize that final zone, that final fight. You can see that they were just not going to give anything up. They knew that there were some straggling solos around their area, and they do lose Valiate, but that was a death to the blue. It was a re-knock instantly after he got revived, so no point given away, and it's those small things that can make or break a qualification process.
Huge performance from so many teams right there. Even Duel able to make it into the late game, even as a solo. But RNG, it feels like once they got this compound, they were not losing. They just carried that momentum. Every team that tried to push onto them just got absolutely punished. And I have to give credit to Selfish for being able to sneak in as long as he was able to, directly behind the fight. I can't even remember which team ended up taking him out. But either way, really impressive performances from teams that needed to deliver. And still, we see a couple of squads like Alcudzia, like Mira, that have been able to make it into that late game. They are just consolidating their points, confirming their place in the very top end of things, and building out that safety net.
Checking out the leaderboard, 23 points for Pure RNG, 13 for Toyo, so once again, a pretty sizable drop-off from first to second as far as the point gains match to match so far today. Typhon with 9 and Duel with 8. Those two teams, alongside Pure RNG, are some of the ones that we have highlighted as needing to have a good game, that we were expecting some good runs from them. We'll see what that puts them on the overall leaderboard. And again, it's all about just maintaining that top 8 position, but we're running out of time. We only have 2 games left, so teams like Liquid, they're still struggling. I mean, never mind. No, they're 6th place. I forgot they had that really good win yesterday, but seeing them down in with 0 points from this previous round still doesn't give me that much confidence, but they should be able to hold on. Yeah.
But things are looking so close down at the bottom end. There's 2 points between 8th and 10th place. And again, all it takes is one strong performance from a team like Duel, like Typhon, like OMG to be able to close that distance. It's going to be interesting to see as we go into our final 2 games of the evening. It's going to be Rondo, followed immediately by Erangel. And yeah, everything is still to play for, Cammy.
Yeah, it is. Like you said, we only have 2 games left to finalize the top 8 qualifiers to the Super Cup coming up in just a couple of weeks. We're going to go to another break while we set Rondo up, so don't go anywhere.
Welcome to the PUBG Players Tour. This year, we're introducing structured competitive play in third-person perspective mode for players of all ranks, levels, and ability. Here's how it works in EMEA and Americas. PUBG Players Tour competition is held in 2-week phases. Each week, you and your squad can compete in player scrims. Think of these as a great alternative to ranked play. Each day of scrims will feature a variety of maps, with defined team and lobby sizes to ensure a balanced best-of-3 rounds. Teams will earn points based on their performance, and daily leaderboards will track their progress. When the scrims are over, the top teams will qualify for the PUBG Players Tour Cups, where they will be joined by up to 10 invited teams, featuring some of the best players in the region. Players Cup leaderboards will track team performances across 2 days of play, with the top 8 squads progressing to the final round of competition. Players Masters are the pinnacle of the PUBG Players Tournament. 8 teams from each of the 2 cups will engage in fierce competition for a huge prize pool in each region across the PUBG Players Tour season. And for times when a Players Masters isn't scheduled, you can still get your PUBG Players Tour fix with Super Cups. These work just like Masters events, where again, 16 teams, 8 from each of the 2 previous Players Cups, compete for a share of the total cash prize pool. Welcome to the PUBG Players Tour. You know the game. Be a player.
Buckle up, everyone. It is time for Rondo. We only have 2 games left of tonight's not Super Cup, the main cup to qualify into the Super Cup. Sorry, I'm just so excited. I want to call everything Super. But man, Chunks, Rondo has been giving us some really, really exciting circles so far. I believe the last one in Masters, as well as the one that we saw yesterday, were both very exciting, very different from the usual fare. I'm hoping that it continues. But for the teams that are playing, I think their primary concern is strictly getting the points and putting themselves in that top 8 position.
Absolutely. I think based on how tight the leaderboard is, it's all about teams trying to get aggressive now. It's your final opportunity to make something happen. If you're not already solidified in that top 4 or 5 positions, you need to start changing something. It is time to take the risk, because at the end of the day, look, if you've been able to make it to the Players Cup, you can probably do it again. So it's a case of, all right, let's take a high-risk play, qualify for the Super Cup. If we don't make it, we've still got another opportunity next week. And that's the way I think a lot of these teams need to be thinking now. But if you want to get involved in next week, make sure you do !register in chat. You just have to be 16 years of age or older. It is free to enter. Anyone can take part, and you get the opportunity to play against some of the best and ultimately play for cash, which who's going to complain about that?
Not me. Not I. I wish every game that I played could give me cash. Granted, I don't think I'd win any of it because I'm just really bad at video games. It's the reason why I'm behind the microphone. I just yell at players who could run every single one of them run laps around me in whatever game we decide to play. Yeah, so good playing path. Let's not talk about that though, because we have a potential hot drop and non-tron between Luminosity and FIM, and then a second hot drop between 55 and Forever towards the west. What is going on? These teams want to get Rondo started immediately. This could be the big swing that you were talking about. Shotgun swings out, speaking of big swings, but it is going to be because, no, with the knock on to Snakers, the rest of Luminosity are funneling in, though. Doesn't really have an opportunity to confirm that kill yet.
It's interesting to see, isn't it? It's LG and 55 that are taking hot drops, ultimately not on each other this time, but these are the two squads that we've seen taking hot drops every single Miramar game. It's LG that have taken a casualty early on against FIM. They're going to try and find a second angle, but as of right now, they are not really equipped for this fight. I think one player hasn't got a helmet, one hasn't got a vest, and I'd be surprised if the other one even has a gun at this point. Gat's also without a helmet. Snakers is going to be flushed out, so in the very best case scenario for Luminosity now, they're going to be playing as a three-man squad.
Yeah, I was wondering why Bizzler didn't want to really hold that angle more aggressively. Try and keep Snakers alive. Perhaps they just didn't feel confident on their ability to revive Snakers either way, but Dudu running forward with an M4 in hand, wants to take the spike close range, swings out from the window. Spots Voxic, deals some massive damage, gonna try and follow up on that player. Bizzler is still hanging out on the high ground. Voxic goes down. There it is, Bizzler does finally get activated. Shotgun in hand, confirms the kill.
Bizzler limited on ammo though, and you just can't win against a shotgun at that kind of range. Gats is going to try and make something happen with the util as he throws in the BZ nade, followed with a frag as well. Finalisma, they're taking a lot of damage. It's only going to be Unhappy left up, as it's the BZ nade that finishes off the job. LG, they come out on top, but it's going to be a difficult game for Gats right now. They don't have a great circle position either. He's going to have to make a solo rotate here and, probably just sit out in a shack somewhere and hope that he gets the hard shifts.
Probably. In fact, that's the shotgun still in hand. I wouldn't be surprised if Gats decided to hang on to that Saiga for the rest of the round. Like you said, hoping to find a shack. Just hold it with a boomstick to ruin someone's day. But hey, Luminosity, they're comfortable on the leaderboard regardless. 4 kills. I don't think they're going to be too upset with their run. Maybe this hot drop, but it's not going to negatively affect them in terms of qualification process to the Super Cup.
No, they are pretty much locked in right now. It would take... I'm not sure whether it's even mathematically possible for them not to make it. So especially with the 4 points that they've been able to gather this game, which again is what we talk about as that kind of benchmark for your average points per game. As long as you're hitting that, you're pretty confident. If they can get another 4-point game on our angle later, they're going to be happy. They don't have to worry at all. In terms of circle, though, teams are going very central, very early. It's not too surprising. We've seen it a lot in the Players Cup so far, where teams just want to get in, center up, and that's why we've seen so many early game engagements. So it's going to be interesting to see how this unfolds.
There is still a possibility for this circle to go towards test track. It's going to have to be a hard shift to the north for that to happen, though. If this goes east, if this goes south, or, man, I'm hoping if it goes west or southwest, that'll make for another very interesting, relatively new game here on Rondo. Team Casito, Bran, getting approached by Forever. Forever were the team that threatened to hot drop Zhao Tin on top of 55. But instead, they just rotated away. They've been scavenge looting. And their approach now could actually... Wait a second. Team Casito dropped 2 separate spots. This is the set that dropped just outside of Stadium. Just outside of Team Liquid's drop spot. They're finding an E-pick up to get into the zone. The other 2 members of Team Casito likely looking to follow up. But this suddenly, knowing it's a 2v4, makes me wonder how this fight's going to play through if it does, in fact, start off. As far as I know, Chunks, Forever could just let Team Casito move in front of them. But you never know.
Never know indeed. I almost wonder, do Team Casito now do those two players try and stretch the parachute all the way over here to get a bit of an opening? It looks like Forever, they're going to be engaging onto this. Team Casito now don't really have a choice in the matter. Bad Kevin going to try and find an angle, but it's too little too late as Bran already third partying from behind. It's just a scrappy fight. Neither team has been able to get a knock just yet, and it's a bit of a waiting game. Team Casito, they have sent their other two players dead center into zone. Nubsky takes down Bran, and it leaves only one player left up for Casito to try and take down the four-man squad of Forever.
Grenade out. But now eyes on Bale. Another grenade aiming for that position. It's going to catch the run. Great throw by Pana. Now they're going to find those 2 kills, get some extra loot. I think that was probably the best case scenario for them. Pure luck that they were running into only 2 members of Team Casito. But hey, you take what you can get.
An early game fight, not where we would have expected it. I think at this point, we've all expected the fights to be kicking off dead center, but not to be this time. Toyo, they're making the most out of a very strong compound position. On the top performers so far this evening, as we've spoken about many times at this point. One of consistently the strongest squads here in the Players Cup, and they are looking to solidify their place in the Super Cup in just a couple of weeks. Team Casito, though, as a duo, what do you really expect them to be able to do? They're probably going to have to slow things down, but Valiate, how was his solo? He spotted out 2 of those players. He's not taken any shots just yet. Almost waiting for the rest of his team to close in, but when a player hops in a vehicle, they're reversing away at that kind of range. You've got to go for the spray. You've got to make the most out of it. And an easy point sponged up. He still knows there's one more, but I don't think LFP knows just how many players of RNG are rotating in to pinch him now.
I think those might be 2 E-buses zipping around on the east, which can be very hard to hear coming in. But the rest of Mira are also approaching from the east side. SLR in the hands of LFP, but gets tagged from behind. Fanta does drop Penta. The pure RNG aren't coming out of this. Scott free with Penta confirmed. Let's confirm 3 versus 3 in this engagement. But positionally, I still think it's going to be difficult for Team Mira to upset pure RNG's position. So I wouldn't be surprised if they decided to just kind of leave. The problem is, though, how does LFP get out?
I'm not sure whether he does, unfortunately. Oh, never mind. He's got a bike, and he's not going to give away any audio cues either. So unless someone somehow spots him out in the open, he's managed to make a relatively safe escape. It looks like Valiant, though, was able to spot him out. Not quite able to land the shots. Surely at this point, he needs to hop into a proper vehicle for some decent cover, because that is not the way he wanted it to go. Fana, he's going to be taking an engagement, trying to scare away Roth, but instead, Roth has just pulled up in the building. Rello with the long-range support in fire. Going to try and make something happen. Not able to convert it to a knock, but at least gives Roth a little bit more info than he previously had.
Roth now backing away, hops in the vehicle. Parting shots from Fana. No real damage coming through. It does draw some attention from another member of Alcatsia further west, but as we pop back over towards Forever, they got 2 more kills in the meantime. Running into Fora, and they're looking to grab the remaining 2 kill points available right in front of them. Again, like, as far as scavenge runs go, this is looking like a pretty good game. Now, whether they can then extend this into a chance for the chicken dinner, that's a different question, but right now, they should just be able to clean up these last 2 members relatively straightforwardly. They have the utility, they got the blue zone grenades. They're deep inside phase 1 blue, and it's all down to Atlas.
Andorito trying to find the angle, but Kevin ran straight past the player, heard the audio cues, makes the most out of it. This is what I mentioned going into this final game. For those teams that are down in the bottom half, they need to get aggressive, take those high-risk, high-reward strategies. That's exactly what Forever have done. They've got 6 points before most teams have even managed to get 1. This is really impressive, and hopefully they can keep this momentum up. They should have plenty of meds to work with, but that circle centers up, and there's still a decent amount of water in it.
Yeah, this one could get complicated. I think Alcatsia are looking in a really good position. It's not going to give them the opportunities to go for the edge fighting that they would have wanted to. They're all looking like they're going to be collapsing on Roth's spot. And to be honest, that's not the easiest spot to hold. It's not great, but it is the center of the zone, and there is a small warehouse that Roth is playing out of. But forever, they're in the blue. They're getting the loot, but they are going to have to get a move on, hopefully get inside the zone before the blue takes up too much of their heals, too much of their utility.
In check, they're going to be making a move into the zone. They do need to be careful. Typhon are very close by on their east. Shouldn't be too much of a problem for them as of now. They've got an entrance into the zone, and they should have a bit of high ground to work with in terms of working down that ridge line. Liquid, they're pretty central in the grand scheme of things. They've still got a little bit all that they probably want to make out of this one. But Alcudia, Rello, he's going to make the most out of the opportunity onto Spectro. It's not enough, though. Lands a little bit of damage, can't convert it over to a knock. But now Alcudia, their position has been given away. They know there's going to be players inside of here. K-Mind tries to peek through the doorway, not going to be able to land the shots from Roth, but takes a lot of damage. As now, Duel, they're forced to slow down the pace of things. And in check, well, they might just be looking to third party.
It looks like they're collapsing in. They heard the shots. High chance they did. But they could be able to slot themselves in on that west side. The grenades, they're unstopping by Alcudia, but they're still not finding the knocks. Rello, follow-up spray. Sounded like a vehicle did go up in flames, yeah, but Duel are still standing around. But Cowboy does go down to the newly arrived in check. Unsure if that's going to be an easy revive for Alcudia to try and go for, but I think D is going to go for it. Hops in the vehicle. There is cover up there, but Vinny's pushing forward. Does he know of Roth's position? That's the big question.
I mean, he's checking it. He sees a vehicle there. That might be a giveaway, but Roth, he's using the third person to make the most out of it. Gets the knock, confirms it over with a flush. Cowboy is still going to be down, so Alcudia are going to look to try and get the revive at some point. They need to somehow clean up this fight first, which is, you know, hard enough when you've only got one squad to deal with, but now with two, and Duel sending players up over the top of Die. Rello's going to be getting knocked and flushed out as well. K-Mine using the third person. I think he has a read on roughly where Die is going to be. The Selfish throws out the frag. That might be enough to finish off both Cowboy and Roth, but no, it's positioned wrong, and he's spotted out by Duel, forced to retreat now.
I don't know who's even mortaring in this position. I think we have some shots coming in from the south from Mira. Everyone's fighting over this one single spot. More wild swings as we enter the final few rounds of this weekend's games. The arrival of Endcheck completely upset Alcudia's hold, and they've lost two, but Andrew finds the knock against K-Mind and Spectro, landing on the roof. K-Mind should be able to get revived. Spectro, though, I don't know if we can say the same for that player. The rest of Endcheck you can see off in the distance, pushing forward as Alcudia, they're backing away. They are conceding this position, but you can see on the map, the circle continues to go down south.
And that is really good for the teams in this compound. It means they don't have to worry about a rotate, so it might just be a case of almost letting the fight play out. Take it slow, don't over-aggress. Duel have hard cover, sure. In check, have a lot of util, but at this kind of range, it's going to be hard to actually use it effectively. In check, Andrew using the third person to try and make the most out of the lines of sight he has. He had a read that K-Man could be there, but there was no way to land any shots. So right now, for in check, it's also just a waiting game. They need to be cautious, potentially dangerous. Alcudia both rotating around the north could also get involved in this fight, and it wouldn't be the first time that we've seen squads crash in. But you know what? This is the first time since returning to casting that I've seen a mortar kill, and I have seen so many attempts. So that is amazing play from in check to be able to not only use the mortar, but then also try and get involved in the fight as well.
You'll see many attempts, like you said. It's not the most accurate weaponry, but when it works, it works. And check, they're not going to commit on to removing those final members of Duel, though. Duel were able to get a couple of them revived, at least one of them, but Alcudia on the retreat away. They've tried to loop around and get further into the zone. This little river that OMG have been holding next to makes rotations on this side of the map a bit complicated, but Alcudia, they might have lost their vehicle, but they're at least inside the zone. They can at least try and salvage something from this position. Dropping down to the low ground, favoring safety over potential for control, and can you really blame them?
Liquid trying to defend against potentially dangerous, but it's going to be Taego that they need to be more concerned about. As Kirk goes down, they're going to be forced to start making their move, potentially just abandoning that player, or arguably going in to try and make a rescue mission. The rest of Taego, though, are going to be pushing into this set of containers to try and finish off the job. Luke 12, oh sorry, Capitan spots out Alo and manages to take him out the vehicle, narrowly avoiding being ran over right there. Sparkin has also managed to get into the compound, throws the nade over the top. Is it going to be close enough to connect? Not just right now. Kurt should be getting revived, but now Liquid, sure, they've got hard cover, but they don't have great angles, and they are very open, especially if Taego decide to flex out more.
Yeah, Liquid, they're in the top 8 right now, but they don't have a huge lead over 9th and 10th place. So if they go down early here, it's going to make their last run, their last Erangel, a bit more stressful. And they're going to try and avoid that as much as they can. Taego, don't overcommit, though. I think the arrival of potentially dangerous pressures them to pull away, as well as, of course, waiting to see where Phase 4 goes. Slight movement, but it is going to be a hard shift towards the east. So teams like Taego and Liquid, for that matter, can just stay here. Duel. They get an answer mortar on top of in check?
How the turns have tabled, but it looks like in check, they're going to get ready to make their move away. And this is really smart. If Duel had actually spotted out that E-pick up there, realized where it was going to be, and landed the mortars on that position, that is really nice work. In check now, they're not going to be able to use the emergency pickup. They're going to have to rotate the old-fashioned way, which potentially allows Duel to backfill onto them and kind of third party as they make their move into the compound. Forever, they've managed to get a compound of their own. I'm surprised there's even one free, given the current zone.
The Duel were able to get all 4 members picked back up. IQ with another angle, able to pop Selfish down before he can break that line of sight. Quick reactions, but even faster shots by IQ. Swinging out to a different angle. And I really do think that, yeah, Andrew's going to be trying to retreat away. It does not matter. The fast arrival of Wooly in the sports car makes quick work of in check. So Duel, they're looking good, looking hot, but they are going to have to push through further enemy territory to make their way into the next zone. Pulling away to the east, running into potentially dangerous, and the last remaining player of Team Casito is going to be Robert.
Team Casito, though, Robert, he wanted to take the shots, you could tell, but I think he realized it wasn't the best position to take them from. Spots out Wooly just laying prone, trying not to give his position away, but unfortunately, Gabriel has been able to spot him from behind. This could potentially open him up to Duel if they decide to take this spot. But again, potentially dangerous. They've made their position known now, and it looks like Duel are getting ready for some kind of crash. This could be a huge Panzer play, but it's not able to convert. Does a little bit of damage. Nades are going to be following up as well as IQ tries to go for the peak. The Panzer started off the explosions. The frags are looking to finish them, but Wooly trades out with one of his own. Gabriel to fall after Glock was able to get the knock. LG go down as the fight seems to have slowed for at least a couple of seconds.
Casito do end up getting eliminated. It's Fakes in to find Robert. And Smoke's going out to try and get the revive. Potentially dangerous Slabby now pushing on over, but gets caught by a Duel player in the smoke. Wooly and K-Mine both playing out of first person. I think those are smoke players, so you'd want that third person angle to be able to spot over, but now Mira are finding some angles on the backside of Duel. Roth also goes down in the meantime. Spectro's been knocked. Yet to hit placement points. But with Spectro's confirm kill, Duel are going to have to fight as a 3. Good swing.
Beautifully done from Duel to be able to clean up, but Slabby is not going down without a fight. Takes down one, takes down a second as well, somehow clutches it out, but it's going to be LFP from long range to finish off the job. That was a huge fight. Unfortunate for potentially dangerous to get taken out, but Mirror, they are just going to sponge up every single bit of loot that they can from this position. They might even leave LFP up to the north just to prevent Taego from rotating round and getting an off angle on them.
Fortunately for Duel, with LFP getting that final kill onto Mira, a couple of knocks that they had went their way in overall points, so still a good point grab, even if there were no placements in the cards for them this final rondo of this player cup. Cowboy sends some shots towards the south. Wasn't able to find a knock, and Payne's going to return fire that way. Back over towards Hung Shan. Once again, we have pure RNG just hanging out in a compound, much bigger one, and they have not been able to stop other teams from arriving. Valiant running across the road. Perhaps unknown about the arrival of OMG and Furhopper. That's a P90. It's really not what you want to run into close range.
Jam gets a knock as well, though. It's 55, taking a little bit of damage. I could have sworn that RNG left this compound earlier on. I might be wrong, but they have ended up back here anyway. Taking a very similar fight, but with a whole lot more players to try and contest, especially with OMG down to the west. They've got a nice spread on the road to the north, so that should provide them a little bit of extra maneuverability. They don't have to commit through these buildings, but there isn't much to play out of up to the north of them. It might almost be a waiting game, trying to get some exit frags if 55 take a bit of a unconventional rotate out of this compound. But right now, all the pressure's on pure RNG. They've got two options. They either cross the road, take the fight, or they cluster up in one building, and they are very susceptible to util usage.
Toyo looking to make a name for themselves this time around. And we head back to Hung Shan as these players are getting dangerously close to each other. There's so much cover in this area, in this... Do we call it a city? Do we call it a compound? Feels
a
something
market,
in between.
Maybe?
Well, yeah, but in terms of overall phraseology to use. But no, 55, in that warehouse, they're going to be the ones setting that line of scrimmage to stop the remaining players from pushing further into the zone. One has to imagine, though, if this is going to hard shift away from it, or even just a medium shift away from the southwest, which is very likely to do just based off of pure percentages, it's going to be a difficult exit. No, 55, they have a small little smidgen of their warehouse available, of their long building available to play out of. Now, how pure RNG and OMG, as well as the one solo Sam Crow of Typhon, how they're going to play through, that's the next question.
I think for 55, it's just a case of hunker down and get ready for the fight, because you know that RNG have to make a move sooner or later. Toyo got a little bit of a smoke for some extra cover, but Mira have been able to spot Capitan out. Toyo, they're very split off, but they should be able to regroup relatively quickly. The nades starting to land through now from pure RNG. They're also going to be made aware of OMG over to the west, and it looks like OMG, they've decided they do want to push through this compound. They don't want to head to the north. It's far too exposed. T-Plent gets a nade ready. I think he knows that there is going to be a player under there. That could be nice if it connects, but unfortunately doesn't bounce just the right way he wanted it to. Smoke goes down for a little bit of extra covers. OMG using that third person, trying to make the most out of it. Typhon actually third partying onto pure RNG now, but the P90 comes out big to take down one. They flush it out immediately. 5 kills now from OMG as RNG also fall. T-Plent's eliminated. 55 Esports with only 2 players left up. Mixtal's holding the angle, but not able to find anything. The smoke is still there for that little bit of extra cover.
We do see Liquid lighting up the kill feed with some knocks and kills onto Mira, but still at this fight into Hung Shan, Payne, you can see from OMG, was able to swing around and find an angle on the opposite side of 55 for Hopper now, feeling very, very confident with level 3s and P90 in hand. Spots one. Doesn't spot the second. Baki with a nice jump shot. Mixtall there with the kill confirmation. The swing out for the second. It's all falling apart for OMG. It's down to Baki, 1 versus 2. But I think Payne's going to be distracted from an engagement elsewhere. Both are flashed. OMG come out on top. And they have time to get one of the reses. But this is still going to be a difficult push into the remaining zone.
Really nice to be able to come out on top of that one. 7 kills from OMG. there's 2 squads in the top 4 now that we wanted to see turn things around, and they certainly have done, and it looks like they could end up going head-to-head against each other if they aren't careful. Pandorito takes down one from OMG. As Forever, 8 kills. This is unheard of so far from them, and I am so happy to see it. Smokes are down, FaZe is getting ready to pop, and it's only really OMG that are under pressure in their current position. They only have the corner of a building to work out of, and as we saw earlier, it's relatively exposed from the south.
I mean, this entire zone is relatively exposed. Forever, they have some cover in forms of in the form of their vehicle, but it is going to be a relatively hard shift all the way to the north. Liquid can still play out of the single building left in this zone. How many points they can get towards the end, that's going to be all up to them. I think there's a pretty high chance that teams like Taego and OMG are going to be running into each other. So perhaps the opportunity for further kill points for Liquid aren't as good.
Taego played a little bit slower than we maybe seen in our previous games. They're not going super heavy on the kill points, but they know that if they can make it into this phase somehow, the points will come naturally. Popping the vehicle tires, making the rotate a little bit more difficult. Forever still have some cover to work out of, and they don't have to move just yet. The only real threat for them, given their current position, is going to be A, if they peek out and Taego find an angle, or if B, Liquid decide to make a move. It looks like for now, though, it's going to be OMG that make a move. They're throwing down the smokes, but Hemi is just waiting with the MK, pre-firing the angle, landing a couple of bullets, but not many as of now. Both teams have to move, but Taego can leave it a little bit later, as OMG are just going to scramble to find any piece of cover that they can right now.
Ooh, the jumping is giving Emmy a bit of a sight line onto where those OMG players are rushing through that huge smoke wall. Capitan playing behind the tree, only now forced out by the blue. Sparking's looking to try and grab that kill, down to half HP. Only 4 kills on the side of Liquid, but I think with the placement points already, even if they were to go out now, it would be enough to put them in a much better position heading into Erangel, which is what they were hoping to do. Capitan with the peek around the side. Great damage! But now might just be relegating to dying to the blue. Yes, indeed. Taego lose 1 to the zone. Don't give the kill point away.
Just keep your head down, bleed out, deny the point. Damage is being found, though, but it's Pippa who actually returns the fire onto Forever. Luke 12 also making some shots onto Emmy, so they try and crash over to the rock. It's just not possible for them. Taken out just before they get to the cover. Forever actually going to be the one to flush out onto Benja right there. Nice shots coming out from Spark in the shield, unfortunately in the wrong position. He's using this high ground for all it's worth. A nice little angle that I don't think Forever would have been expecting anything from. Nades coming out as Sparking unable to land all of the shots. Kurt playing point, and it works out well. Down goes Bad Kevin as Team Liquid, they've had the hard cover. We knew it was going to be advantageous, and now they are making the most out of it.
You saw the second that the zone closed, the second that they eliminated the major threats of Taego, they instantly pushed further towards the west. They're trying to find every single point that they can now without giving anything away, and now is the time to strike. Rest of the team at the ready. It's a pretty big gap out in the open between them and Forever. You can tell that they want to cross it, but they just don't have the ability to just yet. And they've run out of frag grenades. Flashes come through, as well as smokes. Luke is still ready for it. Shots coming out, keeping the pressure on Forever.
Blowing up that vehicle, causing a bit of a problem in terms of hard cover. It shouldn't be too much of an inconvenience, as they still are able to use it, but it's not in the position that they chose. Noobski is still back there, able to provide a bit of an off angle, as Pippa decides it's probably best at this point to deny to the zone. It's a 3v2v3 as OMG finally start to make their move. JO809 is spotted out. Sparking lands a couple of bullets, but Forever are just on an absolute tear, getting their 10th kill of the game.
Liquid are struggling finding any kill points now. They still haven't been able to move past the 4 that we first joined up with them with. Smoke comes out to give them some more ability to push forward to get behind those pyramids of deployable cover as the blue reduces their space that they can play from even further. Shots come out from forever. Sparking spotted, but Sparking does get the knock and gets bad Kevin.
Forever starting to get weakened. They're down to only 2 players left up and not really in a position where they're able to fight this effectively. Sparking isolates Scooby, lands the headshots, takes him down again. Looking out for Noobski, not able to connect as Forever end up falling. There's only going to be 1 player left up from OMG. Kurt runs out of ammo. He doesn't need it though when you've got Luke 12 watching the off angle. They didn't get many kills in the early game, but they picked it up at the end. 8 kills for Team Liquid. But honestly, my MVP for that match, it has to be Forever, a team that haven't done great so far. They've had that 1 game. Now they just need a couple more points to confirm themselves in the top 8.
Yeah, good on Liquid, as you said, to get that chicken dinner. Low kill count, but they got what was available to them, and they held on, and they played the game that was in front of them. Most of the fighting was around the extremities. Most of the fighting was really scattered, not only, of course, in Hungshan, but also out in the blue like this, as well as this huge 3-way, almost 4-way fight around this Lego piece of a compound. Very interesting how this is going to affect the overall leaderboard. I think the points got relatively spread out amongst a lot of teams involved this time around. I don't think it's going to be easy to call how the overall leaderboard stands now.
I think we just have to wait and see, but I gotta say, Pure RNG, they held onto that compound for a long time. But in the end, they fell as the circle shifted away. This was really the center point for all of those endgame fights. Everything was all about focusing onto this compound. Every team was trying to find an angle on it to do some damage. And ultimately, we knew that OMG were going to struggle to be able to make it out of there. To be able to make it even into the top 3 was an impressive feat. But Liquid, they were quiet in the early game, but they made it count. They just tore through the lobby when we got to the end, but huge respect to OMG to be able to make it into the top 2, given their very tricky position going into those final phases.
18 points for Liquid, 15 for Forever, 14 for OMG, but then it drops off. Not a huge amount, but 4 teams with 7 points. So yeah, it's, you know, there are a couple of teams with 0s, a couple with 1s and 2s, but still, as far as comparison to a traditional match leaderboard this is relatively spread out. But I just gotta wait for the overall leaderboard. We want to see where everyone stands going into the final match. What positions are even available to be played for? You have to imagine with the 10-point gap between 7th and 8th, this all might just be a game for the final qualifying spot.
But if you're any team all the way down to duel, all you need is 1 win and a couple of teams to have a similar game to that last one where they just weren't able to get any points. It is everything to play for right now. 1 point between 8th and 9th, and the drop-off after that is very slim. Yeah. It is going to be tough going into our final game. The pressure is well and truly on for these teams. I would not want to be in their position. I think for teams like Toyo, they're going to be pretty confident. If you've got 50 points, you're happy. Even Pure RNG, though, with only a 10-point difference, it's still not all settled for them.
Yeah, it is possible for potentially dangerous alongside either InCheck or Team Casito, or even OMG, I think if the numbers play out properly, to both overtake a team like Pure RNG. So they can't play this one sloppy themselves. It is going to be pretty unlikely that they fall, but you never know. Eyes are going to be on that 8th place position regardless. And guys, you know what's coming up. One final Erangel. We're going to throw to a break to get that one set up. We're not going to want to miss this explosive finish to this weekend's Cup. One game left, guys. It's not all to play for, but there's still a lot of teams that have a chance of making one final run on Erangel to qualify to the Super Cup in a couple of weekends. For the teams that don't make it, there's still another shot with the next Players Cup coming up next weekend, I believe it is. But you want to try and get yourself qualified now, because if you wait till next weekend, you got to start from zero all over again.
Absolutely. And if you want the opportunity to take part next weekend, we should point out yet again, you can do !register in chat to take part. It is free to enter. If you can make it through those weekly scrims, you will be playing for the prize pool in the Players Cup, and potentially even make it all the way to the Super Cup, where there's I think a $20,000 prize pool. Absolutely huge. So make sure you get yourself signed up and take part. It's going to be an exciting tour ahead of us, but an exciting final game as well, Cammy, as we head back to Erangel, a map that everyone is familiar with. But so far, every Erangel game we've had has been wacky circles. We haven't had like a standard game yet in the Players Tour.
And I don't trust Erangel. I haven't trusted Erangel for about a year at this point. Look at this plane. This is okay. This has an equal enough chance of being a more centralized Pachinki school Razak circle as it does Sosnovka or Milta Peninsula. In fact, it might even a higher chance of being Sosnovka or Milta Peninsula. It's Erangel, and it's the final Erangel. It's always, for some reason, the most chaotic here, which is why, like, for the teams that have left it up till now to put themselves in the top 8, it doesn't feel great. But so many squads are dropping out in what looks to be an alt drop on top of Military Island.
I would love to see one of those 50-50 Milta Sosnovka circles. They are some of my favorite to be able to watch. So we'll see. I mean, the playing path is definitely leaning like it could go that way, but as you mentioned, we could get a kind of standard central circle. We will have to see when that phase 1 pops. Liquid looks like they're going for a bit of an alt drop over on those western Millie Island compounds. They are going to have a team very close by to their north, and out of all the amazing circles we have, that might just be the most disappointing one that we could have gotten.
You
Unless
say
you're a player, of
disappointing.
course.
I mean, you say disappointing. This is quite straightforward a little bit, but at the same time, though, there are things to consider. There's still a bunch of field. If this ends up in the field, we haven't seen a field ending in quite a while, certainly not in third person, so that's going to make the ending very interesting. But also, even with the circle looking like a quote-unquote normal position, the relationship between the circle and the playing path is going to make some of these teams' rotations very difficult. There are 4 squads on Sosnovka Island, potentially dangerous, in a position to hold that western bridge. Team Casino or OMG could do the east, so it's not as likely. So even with that circle, once it closes, could look quote-unquote normal. This is not going to be a straightforward game for many of the squads playing now.
No, I think, when you look at the circles, sometimes you do forget about those drop spots. And yeah, looking over at the maps feed, which, by the way, if you guys don't already, make sure you do !map. If you have multiple monitors, it is a game changer. You'll be able to see all the fights that are going on, and it kind of adds to the experience a lot of the time, being able to see every different angle and where those fights are potentially going to kick off. It looks like Liquid, though, they're going to get really aggressive very early on. They realised that the team dropped up to their north, but thankfully for Fora, they're going to be hopping in the vehicles and moving away. It's almost looking like they want to go all the way down to that eastern bridge to potentially rotate back, but Team Casito, if they were keeping an eye on the drop spots, they could potentially do a bit of damage on the rotation.
I think Fora backing away just because with 4 squads all landing scattered around Sosnovka Island, there's always going to be the risk of getting pushed, but also sharing the loot spots. They got to sort of jump from scavenge loot to scavenge loot to scavenge loot. But Typhon, Samcro also going aggressive. Typhon are in a position that, I'm sorry to say, are very, very unlikely, if not even impossible, to qualify. And so they might be going just for some grief play to make a name for themselves in this final map. Panda Dorito spots the rotating Fora squad, calls that out to their team. But how are they going to play this one through? Because forever, they are in a position that they could qualify if they have a good game here.
As Fuscatao tries to land a shot onto Pandorito, This is not what you want if you're Forever, a team that are on the cusp right now and need just one strong performance to solidify your place. Potentially going to go down early on. The vehicle is already smoking. He's having trouble trying to dodge the shots. He's lost tires. He's spun out, hops out of the vehicle. Atlas spinning around on the front end and comes out on top of that one. Bad Kevin doing what he can to try and provide some support, but Pandorito goes down early. As Forever, that is an unfortunate way to start for them.
Really not what you want to see. And Foradores could look to keep toying with Forever. Another squad like Typhon that really just... I don't want to say that they got nothing to play for, because there is also a cash prize for wherever they end on the leaderboard, so they can definitely bump themselves up in the prize pool, how they place here. But as far as qualifying, they are, to my knowledge, out of it. So they can really play however they want at this point. Sparking made his way across that catwalk. They're looking to take their early drop, their early loot, as little as it was, and gatekeep, likely catching FIM off guard.
We can get a whole lot more loot if another team has done the job for you. Down goes Doodoo as Luke 12 lands the spray. Sparking going to try and close him for cover, but doesn't want to expose himself. Alo with the long-range support shots now takes down a second. They've eliminated 2 from FIM, and they should be able to flush these out. FIM now with 2 players up on the hillside. How do they approach this? Do they try and go for the revive? Doesn't look likely at this point. They're still going to commit to the fight, but as Unhappy goes down, it's only going to be Kevin's left standing, falling apart at the very beginning of our final game.
Great decision by Liquid. They were in a rough spot with the drop going into the Gatka circle, and they're making the best of it right now, catching FIM off guard. The opposing team's not feeling too happy about this, but this is what happens again when you leave it up to the final moment. Annihilation by Team Liquid onto Finalitza. And with the 4 points in tow, I think it is virtually, if not literally, impossible for them to fall out of the top 8. They can just play for funsies.
Alcudia almost getting caught on the rotate, but it's 55 that caused the distraction. It's potentially dangerous now. Raining down shots from on high. Doing what they can to try and finish off the job. Mixtal with the bolt. Not something you see as much as I think you'd like to in competitive play, but when you've got a player that can land those headshots, it is near unbeatable. An instant knock for most players.
Halberd gets a run overkill into T-Plants. So yeah, just then we saw a brief moment of what was happening in the main circle, but our eyes are still going to be following along Sosnovka Island Forever with the surround over to Fora. They've lost 1. Can they pick up some kills in return? That's a player standing out in the open. Nevsky might have missed the opportunity, though, of no movement. Heading back into Gatka, or close to it. At least it's inside the zone. Potentially dangerous, doing top-tier S+ level play of popping the tires. But Mixtall with a great knock onto Nitavon. Talk about bolt action. Should be able to get the revive easy. And Mixtall, unfortunately, with those tires popped, can't really get out. But there is a vehicle coming to pick him up. But I also see another member of potentially dangerous swinging around the opposite angle. But Mixtall lands another headshot. What is going on?
Don't peek it, Glock. You'll get your head taken off. This is not the fight you want to be taking when he's locked in like this. Nicely done from 55. Mixel in a very difficult position, but it's OMG that are also looking to try and get involved onto this now. Could cause huge problems, especially if they identify the player out here. Mixel tries to go for the spray. Lands yet another headshot. Not able to convert it over to a knock, but hey, OMG aren't going to be getting involved in this one now.
You know what, Mixtall? Don't leave. Just stay here. I mean, 55 only have 1 point from this position. They've lost 2 players.
Yeah,
so I don't really know
so
what the best
powerful
strategy is. Yeah.
On that bolt. It's they don't really have a way of getting out of this at this point. 55. It's just a rough final game for them. And he's named himself.
Yeah, and even dropping the fire. I can't remember where 55 are on the overall leaderboard. They're close enough to potentially dangerous that they don't want to be giving any points away. Odd to see such an early denial, but in the last round of the entire series, every single point can matter.
55 right now. They're currently in 6th place. They've got 50 points. So they are one of those teams where we think, hey, they should be safe at this point. But to deny points and not take the fight, I'm not sure whether that was the play that, you know, it could come back to bite them, is what I'm trying to say here. There's only one way to see it, and that's by waiting, seeing how the game unfolds, seeing how other teams end up performing. But it's one of those situations where sometimes your destiny is not always in your hands, and that is half of the stress sometimes when it comes to playing competitive PUBG.
Well, the reason why I'm not so worried about 55 is that, sure, they're quote-unquote only 50 points, but they need to be passed by 3 separate teams in order to be falling out of the top 8. One of those teams is potentially dangerous, so that is why Mixtall denied his own points so early on in the game. They just need to stay above 9th position. They could fall from 6th to 7th or even down to 8th, but as long as they're in that top 8, they should be good. So I think ultimately, considering the situation that they were in, not a bad way to finalize things and, well, make it that much harder for the teams to pass them. Liquid still getting some kills. Don't know where that's coming from. They are heating things up once again on the final round of the night, but with the circle that's mostly centered up around the field to the southeast of Gatka, so many squads are just making a rush towards the center.
Liquid heard that we said they were playing slow in the last game, and they just said, no, we'll prove you wrong right now. But they're coming up against Alcudia, which is not a team that is known for playing passive either. They are going to be getting aggressive, and I can imagine this is going to be a head-on fight if Alcudia get the read on it. They are positioning up, and yeah, no surprises here. Kurt is just pushing in, and this is the early game fight that I think we want to see because neither team really has anything to lose at this point. They're both locked in to make it to the next round. As Kurt opens up the fire, lands a lot onto Cowboy, but there were almost too many targets. He couldn't make his mind up. Luke 12 pops up to finish the job as Roth goes for the seat swap, lands the shots onto Sparkin. Luke 12 finishes up the job. The nade is close though, and Die finishes off. Nicely done for Alcudia, and Liquid, no sweat off their back.
Yeah, but how is D gonna get the reses? There are so many shots trying to find these fallen players in the smoke, just sticking the revive onto co-captain Rello. And Cowboy's gonna be screaming for the next res, but that's a bit more out in the open. The smoke is probably gonna fade. I think, yeah, he's just gonna bleed out. Or no? Still alive. Wait, did Rello just rush to go get the res on their teammate?
I cannot tell. I mean, the fact that he hasn't already bled out after taking so much damage, you got to think so.
Yeah.
I mean, Alcudia, they were under a little bit of pressure, but nothing that they can't handle. It looks like they are still sticking the res for the time being. LG, they've managed to get a nice compound at the end of Chopsticks. 3 teams within a few hundred meters of each other. It's all good for now. But if we get a hard shift down to the south or even a couple up towards Gatka, this is going to be similar to what we saw in our previous game where we have 3 teams just playing the very edge of a building until the zone ultimately forces them out, and then they've got a super open fight ahead of them.
There are a lot of scattered compounds around this area. So despite an action-packed early game, having lost 3 squads so far, and it's only phase 2, I wonder if we might have a bit more of a slower period. Vixen tossing his weapon around, showing us some... What's that military unit? I don't know if you have this overseas where you are, but where like they do like the rifle spinning and all of that. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Oh, like rifle drill.
Yeah.
We don't have like units as such, but yeah. Yeah, it's a thing.
Anyway, Vixen showing some of his moves.
I can't help but notice pure RNG have actually called in an emergency pickup, even in their current position. I'm not sure whether they were hoping, you know, they will put it down in preparation for a hard shift in the opposite direction, but at this point, they don't need to use it. They're pretty comfortable in their current position with that zone moving down to the southwest. The chopstick compounds are still in, but with this circle shift, it's almost a waiting game now for, okay, how long until these teams actually have to move? Because they're on the very edge. They surely don't get that many hard shifts towards them.
Fora and Forever have both been able to make their way off of Sosnovka Island, though Typhon looking to try and catch some of those rotating squads through their area. Duel also driving right past Mira, and there were a couple of high ground positions and a couple of compounds, which Duel were able to find one that is just completely free. A great grab for them, a great find. I think this was Mira, yeah, the eastern set, grouping up with the rest to face off against in check directly to the north in Chopstick. There's no single position in this zone right now in phase 3 that is like a dominating where we can win from this spot outside of perhaps Alcuzia's position. So I think all these teams, Toyo included, is going to go for this early game fighting and avoid having to go into the field.
Toyo going for the early game fight though, taking out K-Mind. Interesting to see how they decide to approach this. They could very happily play this ridgeline without too much concern. It almost looks like they might call in a bit of emergency cover. Might want to leave it a little bit later, though, because you know just how open this circle already is. You've got a bit of high ground, then you've just got open fields. And this is going to be one of those games where we really do see that element of TPP coming into play. How do teams actually navigate through this open terrain? Is it going to be different to what we're used to seeing? I'd imagine there's going to be a lot more snakes in the grass to worry about. But OMG, they're worried about Liquid right now. LG right now. They've landed a couple shots onto Voxic, and he is all out on his own now.
I had to stall to heal, but should be able to keep that line of sight broken behind that defilade. Find more of an open blind spot, not just for OMG, but the rest of the zone. Because still, most of that fighting is going to be towards the north. Outside of a couple of shots, a couple of crashes here or there, it's been relatively quiet, though I say that. Popping over to Duel, they might have lost K-Mine, but they are still outputting some damage. Now to the east towards potentially Dangerous. We're able to find, I mean, it's a compound in the zone, but I guess the phrase in the zone might be pushing it just a touch. It's away from the blue, but look how close that is to the edge on the northeast side. But we got less than 10 seconds before we see where phase 4 is going to go. Luminosity now making a break for the middle. Nubsky going to be calling that one out, supporting their teammates in the shack. But a hardship to the north is likely going to incentivize Luminosity to drive even further.
There is not much to play here. We have one big hill in the center, and that's about it. Everyone is going to be playing for this hillside right now. It is going to be so difficult for squads to try and navigate, but Karax with the Panzer seat swap. Amazing to see. Takes down one, but Bizler able to return the fire. Gets 2 knocks in return. Psycho does a seat swap of his own, but runs out of ammo. And in the end, it's Voxic who's able to clean up that final member from Typhon Gaming. That's not going to be enough for them. I don't think they've been able to qualify, but hopefully we see them back next week to continue, just as the aggression continues from Alcudia, taking yet another fight, taking down Fora. I think they've only got one player left up. Sorry, they've got 2 all the way out in the open field. Only a shack to play, and 3 teams ahead of them.
Good luck to IGL's tracking who's still standing once all of this fighting finishes on up, because it's been explosive. And I mean, Chunks and I, we can barely even keep track, and we're watching the observer feed. Infinite goes down to Cowboy. Alcudia is still standing strong despite getting knocked multiple times on that open hillside. Potentially Dangerous. They tried to swing in to the zone, but stopped short by not just Luminosity, but Fora, as well as a lone player of Forever down to the south.
It almost looks like that Forever player is anchoring right now to try and provide a little bit of extra cover, knowing that his teammates are going to be in trouble. And yeah, that's definitely going to reign true there for Scooby. Potentially Dangerous with the mortar, though. This could be big if they're able to land it over towards that final player from LG. It's Bizler that's still standing just about, and it seems to land close. Does a lot of damage, but not able to get the knock with it. Bizler repositions Alcudia. Rello, he throws down the BZ nade. It's going to finish him off for sure, but it might force these other OMG players out from their cover. Die peeks up, lands the spray, but it's Roth who finishes off the job. Alcudia setting up their own red zone, but they spotted the OMG player out in the off angle. It's going to be Furhopper. Takes down Die. There's only 2 left up now from Alcudia, but 8 kills on the board. Nade's bouncing close to Roth. It finishes off the job. Cowboy tries to land the spray. Gets one through the smoke. but OMG, they are somehow safe in their current position, and now Kutsia are left panicking. Only Cowboy left up to try and defend this position.
Already 9 kills, but how many more can Cowboy get? The arrival of Furhopper on top of Roth means that, well, Cowboy, I think, only has 1 target for potential revive, and I don't think OMG are going to give it to him. Flash at the ready, stun coming out, Pain pushing over, but answered by Cowboy, is able to get the knock. Drops instantly back down before getting traded. Still so much to play for. How much more damage can Cowboy do? Spray comes out, can't quite finish it. There it is. Last bullet does it. But can't isolate, cannot identify the final player of 1604 before going down. 16 has an opportunity to get 1 single revive. But with the shift going in their direction, it's going to incentivize all of the teams on the west to push up that hill into that spot. I can't call who's going to even be able to make it to the top 4, much less win this game.
This is going to be tough. I mean, right now, the only team that's really central in the zone is OMG, but they're facing enough trouble just getting pinned down from all sorts of different angles. Mira trying to find themselves an opening, doing some damage onto InCheck, but they are just using the vehicles to get out of here. They have themselves a little bit of a position on the very edge of the circle. Anyone down to the south right now has to be panicking. How do they approach this situation? Pure RNG are arguably the favourites on that southern side, but now that Mirror are pushing up, it's going to be made a lot more difficult.
Foible cover flare coming out. Rez coming through as well, and Oneida Vaughn grouped up with Glock behind this rock. Hey, that rhyme. Are just getting barraged with grenades. I don't think Luminosity have that many more to play with, though. And now the push. Boxic's going to answer it. Finds the first knock. Can't answer with the second. But Oneida Vaughn dropped down to 3 HP. Struggling to survive, wants to get the res on Glock. But the lack of cover, the lack of HP, it's looking very difficult there. Atlas and the rest of Foradores does go down to the blue. That could give potentially Dangerous a little bit of space as Toyo now pushing to duels. Longhouse.
Team Casito fall, and in Phase 5, we're already making it into the placement points. Duel holding on for dear life in this compound, as on the other side of things, Mirror going to be taking a fight up against RNG. Really nice shots coming through as RNG, they tried to get aggressive, they tried to get into zone, but just not able to as they eventually fall apart. The dual Toyo fight has finally opened up. A huge nade coming out from Spectro to take down 2. More frags to follow as Spectro forced to back away, able to get over some cover, but the BZ nade, they know he's not going to be in this room anymore. More shots from every single angle. Toyo, they're still holding this wall for all that it is worth.
Pushing forward now. They got to clean up this fight. A little bit of a jump by Spectro. Gives the information to K-Mine, but the stun stops that rush. The follow-up peek is going to land true. Duel annihilate Toyo. And we're now down to 16s, but here come InCheck. They see the opportunity to make their way into the top 8. Even in the blue, Vinny's going to try and take this fight.
Wow.
And that is going to be Duel out. They could not celebrate for long.
No rest for the wicked, and right there, it was a wicked fight to be a part of. Vinny, just trying to figure out what has just happened. I don't think even we can fully understand what the hell just happened there. It was an absolute mess, but now InCheck, they've got hard cover, which is something everyone else is lacking.
Yeah, potentially dangerous, though. They're looking to make a break for it. They know that they're contesting InCheck for these final few spots. Only 2 kills for InCheck at the moment. 2 versus 4 in this engagement. As Forever also get eliminated, so their run is going to get stopped short. Top 4 already revealed, and it's only Phase 6. 4v4 v 2v question mark for OMG. They can get the res. Cover drops down. Favor of potentially dangerous. And Glock is on the roof. From Moss in hand. Looking to potentially catch Selfish off guard.
Selfish just playing that roof, trying to grab the info. As soon as he grabs it, I'm sure Vinny will be there to support. LFP, though, look at this. He has the read. I don't think InCheck have any idea. They are fully focused on this compound. But now that Selfish has dropped down, they've maybe missed the opportunity to get those extra points. InCheck fully committed onto this fight. They know they're going to have to move sooner or later. So why not get ahead of things, try and clear out the compound, get those extra kill points, and solidify yourself even more placement alongside it.
Molly goes out. That might be it for Glock, and Selfish pushing in, following through. Clearing the building. Onidavon stunned at the ready. But spotted a solo member. It's Vinny swinging off to the side, calling the information out, finding the angle. Onidavon dropped low. And it's just overwhelming odds, overwhelming force. Potentially dangerous and now taken out.
A messy end game here, but things should slow down. We say that, but with how open the circle is, it's not looking too likely. OMG's final player, laying prone, tries to land the shots, but gonna get turned around on. OMG eliminated out in third, and it is a 4 versus 4 in Phase 6. I will not hear anyone tell me that TPP is slow, because this has been a manic game. It has been an absolute mess, and I'm sure that the fight is only just getting started.
The stakes are high for this final fight, though. Potentially dangerous. They did last until the top 4, but I don't know how many points they got total. Incheck have an opportunity to overtake them. I don't think with the kill points that they have now that they'll be able to take over pure RNG. So I think this is going to be the case of who is going to take that 8th position spot. Will potentially dangerous hold on, or will Incheck overtake them with this fight against Mira? If they get the chicken dinner, I'm going to say that they did it. But if they fall to second place, especially if they aren't able to get any further kill points, then it's a really big question mark. And I'm sure Ncheck know the stakes, the scope of what's going on here. Circle centers up, 4v4. They have a long time to play this one out, the entirety of Phase 7 through Phase 8. And it's going to be a bit of a chess match with positioning and information and teasing shots and baiting out rushes, all the good things.
If you're in check right now, your focus has to be flush those knocks as soon as you get them, because you are in a position where every single point matters. It's all well and good playing for the win, but if somehow you don't manage to seal it, those extra kill points might just be the difference maker. Fakes in, hops in the vehicle to try and get an off angle. Shot comes through from Selfish. It doesn't connect, but it does give his position away a little bit more. And it looks like Mira, they are going for a wide wrap right now. They could potentially be thinking, hey, we're confirmed. Let's try and catch them off guard, cause some mayhem. And that's exactly what's going on. Big off angle up from the north. LFP now applying pressure. In check, potentially checkmate for them. They are getting completely surrounded.
Ooh, really good angle by LFP. Great crossfire set up. Kawazin's going to strike now. Gaining even further ground from the distraction of that northern flank of LFP. Even with the vehicle going up, LFP's still going to be playing behind that hay bale. Andrew goes down. Everything's going the way of Mira. And it ended about as quickly as it started. Third chicken dinner of this entire... Actually, was that the 4th? Did Mira win game number 1 as well? No, they didn't. Okay,
I think that's their 3rd. I think they made it to the late game in game number 1. I think you're correct in that point.
Okay, yeah, but regardless, the most chicken dinners of this weekend, no matter if it's 3 or 4, congratulations to Mira. But they were already secured in the top 8. Now, after we watch the highlights of this crazy final round, it's anyone's guess who's going to be the team that is finishing up the top 8 qualifier slot or not.
It's so close, and this is the beauty of an 8-game format, is we don't really have, oh, this team's qualified, this team's qualified. They've all qualified except for, oh, there's maybe one team fighting for it. It was so close going into that final game. There's so much up in the air, and ultimately, until we see that final leaderboard, I don't think either of us are going to be able to take a very good guess. I think Incheck might have been able to do it. I am not sure on that.
Yeah.
But with the number of kills they were able to get, making it to second place, that could have been it for them. Equally so, we're seeing highlights coming out from teams like Team Casito. They were able to get a decent number of kill points on the board. There is so much... There's so many variables, potentially, and with such a messy game... It's the perfect way to end week number 1, and for those teams that didn't make it, they can always come back through the player scrims and try again next week.
Here's the leaderboard. 21 points for Team Mira. Yeah, congratulations to them. Really good finish, but eyes are going to be on Incheck. They got 10 points. compared to potentially Dangerous's 7. I want to say that they did it. I want to say that they overcame the small 1 or 2 point gap that we saw going into this final round, but I'm not going to call it until we see the overall leaderboard. OMG made a nice run, 9 points for them, but I think they're going to fall short forever. They just couldn't get their feet under them with 4 total overall. But here's the overall leaderboard.
Wow.
In check, do it. A 2-point difference between them and 9th place. All the other teams below potentially dangerous just could not get the momentum built up on this final round, and that's why you don't want to save it until the end. Well, congratulations to the top 8 squads, all advancing to the Super Cup in a couple of weekends' time.
Really close set of games. Still so much to play for going into that Super Cup. And more importantly, next week, there's going to be a whole other set of teams in the lobby. 8 more opportunities to qualify. And hey, we might even see some familiar faces here because there's still going to be cash on the line. If you're a team like LG, like Mira, like Alcurcia, where you finished in that top 4, you got yourself a load of cash, then why not come back next week? Let's build up that prize purse and get even more practice going into that Super Cup. But Cammy, what an amazing set of games tonight. I am so impressed with all the teams that have managed to make it. Disappointed by a couple who we had high hopes for, but again, they've still got next weekend to qualify.
Yeah, exactly. And just as a reminder, everyone, with the prize pools going into this, I was wrong with the implication of teams on the bottom half still being able to change what they go home with, but the prize pool is going to be a 1,000 prize pool for each of these player cups paid out to the top 4, and then the Super Cup, which is what these cups are qualifying for, has a prize pool of $5,000. A little bit of mini events in between the larger Masters that has the overall prize pool of $20,000. But hey, with the number of events that are all happening over the course of the year, that can stack up into a really a nice take-home pay for you and your friends. So make sure to hit that exclamation point, register to sign up as well if you also want to get involved. Other than that, Chunks, I don't know if you have any final words. Let us know what you're thinking as we head into... We've just wrapped up... This was a bit all over the place. I apologize. We wrapped up Player Cup number 1 of this leg of the PPT. We have scrims starting again, I believe, tomorrow. Any final thoughts as we head into the week number 2 for qualifiers?
The only thing I can say is get signed up. You've seen how close it was. You can see that anyone has the opportunity to make it through to play for that big prize pool, to play against the best. So get yourself involved, as Cammy said. And also, Cammy, thank you for joining us. It was a very last-minute thing, and you have absolutely killed it. So thank you for joining me. Our first time casting together, and hopefully it won't be the last. But yeah, what an amazing set of games, and I'm excited for next week.
Absolutely. Thanks, everyone, for watching. Thank you for taking this holiday time and spending it with us here at PUBG. Hope to see you next weekend and beyond. Have a great night.